designate the vote. However, again, there's only one candidate for each seat, and our write-in period is passed as well. Where bylaws are, there's write-ins prior meeting, none were. So I will accept a motion for affirmation to approve the slate as proposed, or we could distribute ballots and conduct that during the meeting. I would also like to give, before we do that, all of the candidates an opportunity to introduce themselves very briefly. So again, starting with myself, Ryan Seal, President of the Civic Association. I'm in the second year of my 2-year term. I was previously President of the Civic Association from 2014-15. I live in the Southwest Quadrant. I'm an electrical sales rep by trade, background in construction and development management. So thank you for the opportunity to serve the neighborhood. Our first vice president is Justin Ricky. Okay. State, so he's not able to be here, but Josh, will give a quick introduction.
Hi, I guess I'm now the second VP. I was the Northwest Quadrant rep last year. I live in that area over there by the new Tampa Vet Clinic. I've lived in the neighborhood for a couple of years now. By professional trade, I'm a corporate tax consultant, and I do real estate on the side. So that's me.
Nice. Look at that.
Billy.
Mike, I think, is running. Maybe I forgot.
I am Blvd Townhomes. I live here since November 2018. I live in the East Quadrant, representing King State. I'm going to be the treasurer.
Monica.
I'm a CPA downtown. Specializing in real estate and construction partnerships, and to using those skills to hopefully help you.
Thanks. The correspondence. No. Faith Gwynn, the Faith Ordinance Secretary.
Thanks, Gwen. Running for the secretary. I've lived in Tampa Heights since 1981. I have been hired case manager for Pinellas County Human Services. And I'm currently assisting my husband, who's an attorney, as I guess I'm doing.
Thanks, Mike here, Southeast
He's good. Yeah. He's the one that him and his wife took off a year and went all traveling around the world. Yeah. His wife were the ones that took a year off, year and a half, and traveled all around the world. Well, he must come from the money. And then after that, he like did a wine blog thing where he's selling wine and going around to all the different wineries.
Yeah.
Why?
Tony Kroll.
Oh man.
Northeast Quadrant Kareem. Is Kareem here tonight? Okay. Kareem's not here. Kareem's not here. Lena Young Green. Ready at large.
Hi, I'm Green, and Tampa Heights. Facebook, the Blvd I've been part of the community and reactive some people would say after words after Tampa Heights. Passionate about and have seen a lot happen. since moving in here and joining the people who are private my expertise is working in the legislature, working with and
No puppet
writing.
here.
Allows me thing that
Thank you, Lena. So with that, is there a motion either way or another to accept the slate as proposed?
You gotta wear a mask, maybe.
Thank you.
He's not wearing.
Is there any discussion? About the motion, to close that then, move to vote, we will do a verbal vote, and only if you are a member, please, all in favor. Aye.
Brian asked him if he wanted to join.
Motion carries. Thank you. That was easy and quick. So with that, in our business of the night, we'll start having Onyx East to give an update on their presentation here. They previously met with the board in and I think there's a few updates to provide. I'll let y'all take it from there. I did load the board presentation already.
So that would actually be the sweet spot right there. Yeah.
If you don't, that's fine.
And then you want to just handle this one?
Yeah.
Okay. The signal will change slides.
Thank you guys for having us. As Brian mentioned, we presented to the board in December. We've gone through our ARC here for the timeline of what we've done so far and where we're at in the process. But who we are, I'm JD, and I'm the director of Blvd Developers, Onyx East. Justin Guy.
What does that mean? It says switch to shared content.
Our architect here.
Share screen.
We're the consultants and owners and developers of the property. Onyx East started as Indianapolis, Indiana. That's our headquarters in 2015. We moved down to Tampa in 2019. We have 3 projects that are built and closed out. We have 3 projects under development right now. This kind of stage of the process, all in pretty urban environments. That's where we like to do business. That's where we like to operate, and we intend to be here for many more years to come in this type of
No, it's not plugged in. I'm not gonna.
Next slide. All right, so the property we're talking about is 404, 406, and 408 East Oak Avenue. You can see here, we're going to zoom in a little bit on the next slide, but it's over here, the far right side portion of the property here. You can go to the next slide. We're going to skim through a couple of these slides. A little laggy for a second here. This is zooming in a little bit. So we presented this at the board meeting too. We have a yellow business, Arcad LLC. It's a framework. And then on the east side, the far east side of our property is the big purple house. And just for a point of references, and across the street to the southwest of the commercial building. Next slide. And then this is kind of where the details start. So we did meet with the board, like I mentioned in December, like Brian mentioned. The dates down here are the significant dates. So the board meeting was on December 13th. We presented to the city of Tampa ARC on January 3rd. Obviously tonight we are here for our January 27th meeting, and then we are going before city council on February 10th. So that will be the next public meeting. You can see on the right is the 2-dimensional site plan. It's the PD that is required to be submitted to the city of Tampa. One of the requests for the board meeting that you can pretty clearly see here is the stagger of the front yards, the front yard setback. So in December, we had a flat 10-foot front yard setback. We've committed with the city of Tampa in our PD application to stagger that between the areas between 10 feet and 17 feet. I will tell you that the ARC requested the ability to move that setback plus or minus 5 feet. So that will be determined during the certificate of appropriateness. It's something we have to agree to with the city, with them, but it's still going to be staggered back and forth. So they reserve that right, and it's something that I can't tell you if it's going to be 10 feet or 12 feet now, but it's going to be staggered like you guys requested in the board meeting. You can see at the top, the density originally, you guys may have seen this site in the public as a 12-unit townhome project. Through the process, we've changed our strategy. We changed this when we met the first time, but it's 5 single-family homes. So essentially, what we've done is we've taken 3 66-foot by 130-foot lots, 66 feet wide by 130 feet deep, and we converted those into 5 single-family homes. 4 of those lots are 36 feet wide. One of those lots is, I'm going to butcher it if I don't look at my notes here really quickly, is 50 feet wide. So essentially it's just 3 lots converting to 5 lots. We are using the alley, as you can still see, for the access of the garages and the rear-loaded product. And we'll get into some elevations here in a minute, but I just wanted to walk through. We're quickly approaching sales, development, construction right after we go through the city of Tampa's PD approval process. You can go to the next slide. All right, so here are the 5 single-family homes. We're going to show you another perspective too. This is looking to your northeast or northwest, sorry, from the air. Another request that I did want to mention is the original presentation, we had much smaller front porches. It covered roughly 50% of the facade. We've enhanced that to be full cut, so the entire front of your home will be a front porch now. So it's again something we worked with. We've had conversations with the board. We were listening to that and wanted to make that change in our next submittal. So as you can see, that is the case here. Another request or comment was about the Spanish elevation. So we previously had a Spanish elevation that we are seeking approval. We flopped that out with, again, listening to the residents, listening to what you guys had to say. We weren't going to be able to achieve the Spanish with the parapet walls and the parapet roofs to make it fit in the historic district. And so what we did was we went with a more craftsman style of elevation on the home. So you can see here we have different elevations, different materials. I will tell you again, these are representative. So one of the comments that we talked about internally is, do we want to use all silver metals on the roof? We probably won't, right? We'll probably use some blacks with some different colors of silver, so not every roof looks the same on the front porch. So we will make those type of tweaks. They won't be dramatic, like we're going to change the entire look of the 5 homes here, but there will be slight changes in that. Another will be paint colors. During their certificate of appropriateness process, they will give us some feedback on what colors they would like to see. We'll obviously implement those color changes. This is just representative of colors we thought fit the neighborhood for rendering purposes. You can go to the next slide. This is just going to be a view more on the street level, looking to your northeast of the property. So again, it's very craftsman is the look we are going for. There is vertical boarded back siding, there is horizontal hardy siding. So it's a mixture of materials. The materials will wrap all 4 sides of the elevation. That's again feedback you heard. The garages will match the materials on the main facades of the building and the sides. So everything will coordinate together. Another slide. Here's just, we can probably skip through. These are the color selections. I just wanted to show, if you guys are to see the PD online, it will look like this. So I just want to make sure 2D does not look as good as 3D. So remember, this is the 2D version of the 3D we just looked at. So there's 3 pictures of 2-dimensional that you can see in the city of Tampa application if you're looking online. And then the last slide, you can go to the last one, is we only have 15 minutes, so I wanted to just get to questions and answer any questions you guys may have. Again, we have planner, architect, and we're with the developer. We're glad to answer any questions and looking forward to moving forward on the project. Yeah, they're all 2,200 to 2,850 square feet.
Concrete or wood?
It's it will be concrete first floor, frame second.
And party board all the way up there?
So, yeah, hardy up and down.
And where do your friends park when they come to visit?
Yeah, so we have enough room. The driveways are long enough to accommodate 2 additional guests. They're long enough to accommodate 2 cars plus a 2-car garage.
What's in the back?
That's in the back on the alley. Yep.
I know last time we spoke about across the whole front. Can you give me a approximate depth? On the front which is on the back one?
Okay, you know that off your head, maybe.
So when you first approached, the porches were portions 50% give or take of the front facade. They were averaging about 8 feet. When we spoke with you about widening across the front, then the narrowest part, the depth of the porch where the house juts out is 5'4". We call that sitting porch. The narrowest depth of the wider porch, wider depth is 8 feet. Some of them go up to 10 or 8, closer to 11. So,
Okay. That makes sense. Can you guys have discussions with the city about
There's some, with the Tampa Heights, I looked at the code allows you to encroach into the front setback. So as we go into the certificate of appropriateness, I'm sure we'll get feedback on various things that they would like to see changed or not changed in this. I do want to point out kind of on an architectural side, so you can kind of see it on this eastern building here, how there's a notch out of the side of the unit. So that's something different. I don't know if we talked about this the last meeting we had, but there's also like outdoor space there. So it's a patio within the internal part of the home. So the home shape is actually a U on 2 out of the 5 units we're building here. So there will be glass on the first floor. There will be windows on 3 sides on the interior. So there's a couple of outdoor living spaces incorporated into these homes that will provide multiple places to have your dining room table or entertainment or living rooms on your ground level.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of this is going to be exterior.
Yep.
So that's good engagement. So that's
Yep. Perfect.
how far won't you look off?
Yeah, they're 18-inch stem walls up, so then there will be plus or minus like 4 inches off of that, 18 inches. So. PRCS.
Yeah, ARC will make it be 24 to the main house, and then come back towards the fourth. And then what is the average? I know that you're saying you're varying the depth of the front. What's the average?
It's probably 13 feet if I were to guess. There's one that was 10, 2 that were 12, and 2 17. Is that right? I think with the 5 setbacks.
And then I don't think they're going to let you do colored metal roofs. So they'll let you do colored shingle roofs, and they'll let you do metal roofs, but not at all. That's why.
Yes, and that's fine. We'll work for sure through that. It's going to be. We don't want it to look the exact same going down the line, right? So that's what we're going to internally. Yep.
I'm trying to achieve all for that. And then, yeah, varying party board wrapping, even some shade with all that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
From a historic perspective, I appreciate parking in the back, full front porches. That's heavy. It looks like from the rendering that the 3 middle will have the same total structure, if you will, and then the last one is inverse. Is that pretty much what it is, or is it going to be even more subtle?
So the first unit is at 1 off, the second and the fourth are the same houses, different elevations, but the other 3, 1, 3, and 5 are different. 4 plans, 1 for each.
She's next. I'll give you.
Yeah, I couldn't notice that there are no trees around to clear the lot.
No, there's one pecan tree that sits. The city's actually requiring us to take it down now. So that basically there's one tree that sits in between the 3rd and 4th garage back there, and there's one tree that sits up here in like the power box. So there's the city's requiring us to take those down. We're planting new. Yeah, there's no big trees shown planted in here because it's the rendering. We will be planting new trees on the site too. So we'll be mitigating. Yeah, we'll mitigate. We'll plant trees on the site. Yes, great observation. But the existing 2 trees will not be there. There is a a tree, again, that our neighbor's tree is a hazardous, it's dead. So we will be removing that tree as part of it. It sits on the property line, so I should have mentioned that too. So there's 3 of them, one of them is half on our property. Yes.
I just got a comment, if we vary setbacks to the full coverage, we'll just make it along. That is what they do.
Awesome, thank you.
Right now, relatively similar, one, side. Somebody who was a home on that street on some of that, right here, cleaning them on the open plan style. Would y'all consider it all, not really changing anything about passing, but just maybe put some little columns and ornamentation, but there's still shingles and vehicles or something like that.
Yeah, we're trying to stick to this style, and it does, I don't disagree with you that it looks similar like this. It will not, it looks much different in person. We actually see texture on a building and it's not so rendered. So the concern about will they all look the same, I do not think, I'm not worried about that at all. We're not looking to do Victorian though.
What's the life expectancy now of party board? It used to be 25 years. Unless they made them better. Than what they used to be.
I don't have that, but I'm very confident.
Much longer, because they used to fade and they used to crack.
Yes, they had issues with this, some of them came in pre-color, and that was an issue for a long time, and they also had issues with the butt joints, and they had solved that as well.
Okay, as long as it's covered.
Yep.
Can I get you to go back to the overhead view that you have
Yep. The 2-dimensional like site plan?
of the site?
Yep.
Keep going. There. Yeah.
Oh,
And then the one after that.
the one to the right? That one.
Okay, that one. I think when you came to the board, I don't know why I was listening, I think I was on the Zoom call. I had asked you if, I think with your group, if you had done any investigation on the Interstate 275 corridor there to the east. There are some fairly significant wall intrusions that are anticipated in that area.
Yep.
Have you done any investigation on that, and what opinion that impact might have on your property?
Yeah, so I did see the press releases. I did read through what was going on. I think y'all are very active in that conversation from what I've been reading in the articles. It's not going to impact our plans on our site. So we will intend to move forward with this. But if there's conversation you would like us to sit down in, we are obviously going to be landowners in this neighborhood. We can come and join you in those conversations if that you desire that.
I'm assuming that that's something you would disclose to prospective buyers, so they're likely to come online before that all occurs.
Yes, yep, we will disclose everything we have to legally for sure, yes.
We got time for 2 more questions. I was gonna say, one comment really next to the state building up what we're saying, there makes so there's home maintenance speaking of the interstate. That probably be on a fairly 3-month basis. So when you do water certificates and stuff like that, that will occur as well as the air filters. So you can do trucks that's going to be drills. Construction.
Can't hear a word you're saying.
It was about, there's some maintenance issues with being so close to the interstate, air filters, water, just repainting, just making sure we're maintaining the homes properly or the future homeowners are. That's synopsis?
Yeah, we're just talking about the considerations of owning so close to the interstate. I think I saw 4 parking spaces, is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah, those would be, is this would be its own HOA, or how's that delineation gonna happen on the parking spaces?
Yep, so the 4 parking spaces, if you go to the site, the next slide, if you don't mind, You can see they're carved out right here. So we're working simultaneously with the adjacent owner, the yellow business next door to us. Essentially what is happening is we are deeding those 4 parking spaces will be given to them to construct, and we are constructing a new parking lot for the owner next to us. There's a lot of reasons for that. The main one is this used to be the Tampa Heights office PD. And that PD has been fragmented multiple times over the course of history over the last 10 years. So there is a parking easement that impacts many lots here. He has rights in that parking easement. So what we are doing is we're working with him to provide him the parking he needs to satisfy his office, and we are giving that land to. So it is we're working with him to free him of the parking easement and be able to develop more 5 homes there. Yep.
All right, so if anybody wants to reach you, how do they get in touch with you if they have further questions?
Yep, I can leave a card. You can, I think you have my email, my phone number. I'll do the same, and then you can. Is that?
I didn't know if you wanted to announce it here, otherwise you can email the
Yep.
association and we'll share it with you.
Yep, and Onyx and East is ONYX, the word and East, EAST.com. You can find our contact info on there. So. Awesome, I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
One more question, you're going to, city council is in February 10th, right?
February 10th, yep.
And then your ARC here in front.
We already, the ARC was on January
Well,
3rd.
I was there, that's only for the site plan, what about your condition of appropriate?
We don't have that set yet, so we don't have the certificate. of appropriate.
You haven't got that.
Yeah, we don't have that set.
Uh,
Thank you. Appreciate it. everybody.
Thank you. All right, moving right along, right on time. So thank you guys for that. Our next guest presenter is the North Boulevard Townhomes Group, presenting on a rezoning at 642 MLK Boulevard at the corner of North Boulevard and MLK. You all have something to load up. Take the screen down. Okay, I wasn't aware of that, so find that and load it up. You want to just roll through it? There you go. Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Lawrence Vargas. My name is, and we're here to present our proposal for 20 townhomes at 642 MLK.
Not you.
What?
They're not you. Did you use the mic? Same mic?
We don't have.
Hi, my name is Lawrence Vargas. Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Lawrence. We're presenting for 20 townhomes on the corner of North Boulevard and MLK. It's go to the next slide. Each of the townhomes with fee simple, 3 stories, 3 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms with a 2-car garage. We are trying to do a modern farmhouse look for the design. And it's been vacant for a long time with a lot of failed attempts by other developers to bring commercial into before. I know that's the big topic for discussion for this evening. And so we believe that the market is ripe for that area for townhome development. And we believe our project will hopefully bring in more future developments. And I know the community is wanting mixed use and commercial and everything. Our estimate is that it'll be a $10 million direct investment coming into the community, and that the future homeowners will be paying estimated taxes aggregate of around $140,000 a year. And so we think that's a benefit to the community. We've been shared, next slide. With reviewing the neighborhood vision plan, we believe that we're in line with it. I know it's dated from 2003, but on it, it shows that that corner is residential and that it was looking for a landscaped corridor to create a safer transit between Seminole Heights through Tampa Heights down to Tampa. We're hoping to create more homeowners in the neighborhood and, as I mentioned before, be a stepping stone for future development. Some details of the project. We've had our staff meetings already, and our first hearing is on February 10th. And with meeting with FDOT, they were requesting 20-foot setbacks and for no ingress egress off MLK due to the light, and to stay away as far as we could from the on the North Boulevard side as well. So we are running parallel to Orient Street to just add on to that intersection. As mentioned before, we're planning to plat each of the townhomes. So we are waiting. Part of the reason for that is it allows for easier financing for the buyers and for future resale and appreciation for the neighborhood and the community and everything. We have obliged to all the parking needed. As mentioned, we have 2 parking spaces, and we have all the required visitor parking as well, and not looking for any variance there. So we hope to be, low density, and not to be like a burden in the community. And that's kind of just everything. Yes.
Concrete and then
It'll be hardy board on the front, on top of concrete,
okay, the concrete's gonna be all the way up.
all the way up.
Are you all gonna be the bankers to these things, or are you gonna have a bank with the people who want to buy it?
Well, the buyers usually tend to choose their own lenders, but we will. It just depends on the client. A lot of buyers are planning their own lenders.
It's gonna be a deed restricted area, am I correct?
It'll have an HOA. Yes.
You don't have it. Where are you gonna have your dumpster?
The dumpster is right at the end of where you turn in. It's if you could go back to the 4th slide. It's slow down a little bit. It's in the south corner there.
Okay, it's gonna be on the south
See it
side.
right there.
It's close to the doctor's office.
It's the doctor's office. Yeah, the dentist just south of us.
What do you propose for the alleyway? Is that going to be impacted in any way?
When meeting with the city of Tampa, there is an alleyway where the T is, and they requested that we also apply to vacate the alley going north and south. And we have that going in conjunction as well with our community.
When you vacate that alley, what do you get out of that 5 extra feet?
About 5, yeah.
5 extra feet. Okay. Are you gonna raise the elevation of the ground inside, and there'll be runoff? Or is it gonna stay level?
For drainage, we are going to be using storm drain systems.
What system?
Storm Tech. It's what we've used. We also did the development on the corner of Nebraska and Elkhorn. And that's what we used over there.
Okay, but what does that consist of?
It's it works as a vault to help control all the runoff onto our property.
Okay.
Sorry. Well, David, I do want to put out, these are perfect questions, that's the drainage and all that. This is where we're gonna time limit. Just adding on 11.
I know that you mentioned that currently that you feel like the commercial space is not ready for it. But as you know, even with 100 years, the future and what we do need in that community. And I understand that you're saying low density, and as a whole, the association has always kind of touted to like density, just done smartly. Now, is there any way, or have you guys discussed a way to incorporate any mixed use in this project, or is that subject to require?
We feel like it will make the project not feasible. In the sense that then it would create, we have to do apartments or condominiums, and then it hurts the fee simple. And then, you know, part of where the market is having it be simple and owning the land. It's easier for buyers and lenders to help them out because the loans can be sold at future dates through Fannie Mae. And with condominiums, it just creates, you know, without going too much detail on that, it hurts the projects and everything. So we're just trying to stay solely residential to beat the market.
You have a follow-up? I would just like to point out the fact that this is the first time we're interacting with scrutiny, but 2 months ago to interact with the city association, which was unheeded until last week. So I do appreciate you all finally responding and coming tonight. One thing you just mentioned is something we're experiencing in this neighborhood, which is an insistence upon doing townhomes only, because it's a quick sell for all the financial incentives and motivations for others outside of this community that you mentioned. However, when you choose to go to condominium or apartments, that allows you much more flexibility with how you lay out the land and the ability to stack units, the ability to locate your parking in different places, and potentially add more density. Like Matt mentioned, our board generally supports extra density done smarter, because we like to see that incentivize mass transportation in the neighborhood, make things more walkable. We think that's a great solution, but it's got to be done right. The majority of your site, I think 80 or 90% of this land is in the comprehensive plan as CMU 35, which is commercial mixed use designation. The way that the planning commission and the city interpret that is that does not have to be mixed use, which in my own personal opinion is an oversight, but I think the intent of the comprehensive plan is it should be mixed use, but it does allow for single uses, such as solely residential or solely commercial, if someone so chooses. And then back to the point about this doesn't support commercial. There's a CVS right across the street that seems to do business just fine. I just don't know that you all have found a way to make commercial work. But I think a CVS existing, the gas station, and on the opposite corner is a professional office space. Commercial can certainly exist there, and frankly, those sites might be better served to add some residential uses to their future development. You also quoted our neighborhood plan from 2003. We have been advocating for the city for years to get an update on that. I think you stopped a little short in just looking at the colored pictures and not reading through the text and seeing where it calls for MLK being a key commercial corridor to the neighborhood. So that's kind of how it informs when we look at things. We'll look at what's the future land use designation, how's that appropriate, how's it appropriate to our goals of creating mixed use corridors that are walk and transit friendly, that create business and living opportunities for people to walk places instead of drive, so that they can do business and get their things within a nice walking radius. This corner really has the opportunity to set that bar extremely high for what is an underutilized corridor. I would just like to see it.
What particular uses did you consider and deem unfeasible?
Commercial retail space. On Florida Avenue right now, there's multiple properties up for rent, including brand new mixed use, like in the Avenue blocks on Florida Avenue, Seminole Heights and the Heights. And since completing those buildings over the last 3 or 4 years, there's commercial space that's been vacant on the ground floor.
So that's the people of sensitive neighborhoods. What did you consider for that spot before you just went to this residence where we want mixed use? What did you consider?
We believe this is where the greatest demand is right now for housing.
But what did you consider before you abandoned?
Oh, it's not so much abandoning this, it's just recognizing the demand for housing.
Well, we know about making money. We know about what people want, and we know about what the residents who chose to live here want. I think that y'all need to go back to the drawing board.
So, Tampa Heights is the oldest suburb in the city of Tampa. Early 1880s. That's something that many of us are very proud of, and want to support and want to continue much of our history. Tampa Heights is one of the communities that have always been diverse. In fact, there were pockets or individual groups, but Tampa Heights has always been diverse. And that's one of the things that I personally value about Tampa Heights. Many of the projects that you see right now have not for any consideration for a variety of and community really changing drastically. So my question is, do you have any consideration for the level of income that they could vary? This is for anybody who is putting forward projects. Knowing that that's something that is very important to us and wanting to know how to put that in here in your plan, consideration of lower income, affordable income, and whatever after that. We want to hear the information of that diversity in the projects that come for us, so that we can continue that kind of community that we also.
On this project in particular, no, we purchased the property at fair market, and the intent is to create properties and to then sell them at the market rate. I've worked with Habitat on other projects, and a lot of times, and I believe there's a place for it in Tampa Heights, and I can see that becoming part more so like in the local. For our project, we're not considering affordable housing.
So it's this is obviously commercial for it. It's literally MLK originally in the neighborhood itself is hundreds of years of divestment because of what the neighborhood wants and what's happened to the neighborhood since. We're actually saying there's a lot of people come into these corridors where business cannot yet be supported, but then becomes housing. And next thing you know, we don't have these mixed use areas. So then this just becomes, we actually lose access to stuff that people out in the suburbs and Carroll have more access to because they have downtown. And now we actually have to now no longer, we can't exist in our urban village because it's all housing. So it's just something to consider there. You have, what's the average?
Potentially it's hundreds of $100,000.
I would consider the context of the neighborhood. It has mixed use in the title, and that has always been the case. You know, that plan you brought up there was literally done for builders in 2000, and they're busy for up to date plan that does say mixed use on it. So it's just something to consider. Because the idea is that the folks that did the retail in Florida and the things that we do see that are vacant, those folks are making an investment in the future of the community. It may be vacant now for the last couple of years because of COVID dealing, but we are going to be staying here for years and years to come. We need to make sure that that intersection still holds the value, or at least potential, because if you get rid of the potential, there's left of the budget. No.
I believe it's vacant. It was vacant before, but I personally went to probably Florida, and it was very difficult to rent out partially because a lot of banks and tenants showings all day for one to come, but then when they capital from a local bank, the demographics aren't quite there for them to lend to those people wanting to establish those businesses. So I believe we create the density and helping people do that, those we actually in turn are for those future commercial spaces.
So we have a brand new development in Florida, has now 7 stories with commercial and social. So I think as our plans out there, we're going to think about maybe we're going to have.
And that project has 320 units, 5% affordable, 5% affordable housing in it. Neighborhood association support. All right, we have gone over time, but I personally ate up a little bit of that. My apologies, but I want to make sure we got any quick feedback. Are there any follow-up questions from this group? Okay. Who is the correct person to contact? You, the attorneys? I'm not sure. Start contacting me. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
All right, thanks. All right. Thank you for this group. I did want to. Sorry, could I get everybody's attention again? I was remiss in introducing one member of our board prior. I did not have my agenda in front of me, but Rick Fernandez is our parliamentarian. That position, like mine, is not up for election tonight because it's a 2-year term. But I think Rick stepped out for a minute, actually. So, Rick, can you give just a brief hello? Yep, I could have timed it better. Got to put my Rick tracker on.
I think most of the folks that have been active in association well known. Rick Fernandez, former president of the association, I'm currently chair of the transportation committee. And in that context, I'm spending a whole lot of my time for the last 2 years direct adversarial relationship, unfortunately, with the Department of Transportation. The secretary, which is sitting right over there in the corner, ironically. Well, I guess the slate has already been voted through, so I'm coming in as an afterthought. I'll be coming in as parliamentarian. Look forward to serving on the board. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Okay. I'm going to turn back this one. Okay. Next on our agenda, Roberta or Benjamin here? Roberta, Benjamin? Nope, I've only met them via Zoom. They don't appear to be here. Okay, well, they had asked a couple days ago to come present on their rezoning. That's taking place on East 26th Street. I'll give a brief summary of that in their absence. To go from, it's on East 26th between Tampa and Florida, which is the block directly south of Good Samaritan Inn. If you know where that is. It's on the south side of the street. Good Samaritan owns the vacant land behind there. There are 3 lots, 2 single-family homes and 1 lot, vacant lot in between. They're seeking to combine all 3 in a rezoning, go from RS50, which is single-family home designation, to an RM18 designation. So it's a Euclidean rezoning, which means it's a simple change of classification. There are no plans submitted with that of the type that you've seen otherwise tonight for specific plans. Our board did, our land use committee met with them via Zoom about a month ago. Had some questions for them about what they intended to use the property for. We regularly do support Euclidean rezonings, but we would like some reassurances if it's outside the historic district that the development pattern is going to respect the neighborhood development pattern while we have our overlay code amendment in the works that's not yet in place. They gave no such reassurances and said they were not going to be developing themselves. Did not state exactly what their plans are. So that is basically all we know. We're waiting to find out more. That is scheduled for February 10th as well. So that rezoning is for February 10th, which is the same night as, well, I don't have a note there, but I think it's as the first one. Correct. Feel free to fire a question at me. What's that? Our land use committee has voted to oppose it. On the first agenda item of the night, we have not taken a position yet. We're waiting until this presentation. The second one, our land use committee has voted to oppose. And then on the third one, we have voted to oppose as well. But that is just a recommendation from the land use committee that goes to our board meeting, which is the first week of next month. And the board takes its own position on that. But we like to gather community feedback on this, and that's why we would include them in the email newsletter so that people can weigh in to the board.
I would be, because it sounds like they're going to rezone it and sell it as rezoned.
That's our suspicion. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but they have not answered that directly.
Well, I didn't, I said my sister.
Yep.
Show up, so we can infer.
Yes. we can infer what we might. All right. We get to move on from that. So that's excellent. I did touch a second ago on our code amendment. So I wanted to give a brief update on that. It is something that has been posted on our website since last summer. It has also gone out in every email newsletter. We'll continue to look for feedback on that. To give a brief history of that, Seminole Heights has a form-based code overlay district that was created by the city and passed by city council in 2011, I think, or thereabouts. And that governs how sites are situated from an urban planning standpoint. So the development going on Florida Avenue is governed by that, as well as within the residential districts. It's commercial and residential overlay to make sure that the character of the neighborhood is kept intact. Tampa Heights, along with several other neighborhoods in the city, were promised the same thing would happen. We were told for many years that we were next in line. When we were told in 2015 that process would begin. It did not, and every subsequent year it has not. So what we finally came to with the city and planning commission told us, well, go right away. And so we did. And so we had a lot of help with folks in the room here, but given that we're a volunteer organization, it is a very small and measured proposal to amend the city code, to create an overlay for our entire neighborhood, except the historic district, because there's already a historic district standard that exists for this area. So everything outside of those boundaries, this would govern. It does not go into architectural style. It mainly deals with site plan. So we submitted that, voted on it as a board, read it aloud here for several months. Again, it's out there if you want to read it in its entirety. But we submitted that to the city in July. Just January 5th had our first staff meeting in the city. So we sat there for 6 months with the city. And we got a first round of feedback. It was been positive. There were a few things struck from it that are in conflict with city code that we may not be able to reconcile. But the city is trying to help us accomplish main goals of that. And the one thing, to quote their words, is driveway proliferation is the type of site planning we're trying to overcome, which is instead of folks using the rear alley where available, we're getting a lot of front-facing driveways and garages, which does a couple of things. It eliminates the on-street parking that we have limited supply of, it eliminates green space and trees in our front yards. Instead of having front porches, which is traditional in a historic neighborhood, it generally eliminates the ability to have a front porch if you have a front facing garage, which limits community interactivity in the front yard. So that's the large portion that we're working on. Unfortunately, because of the way this is going, and residential development happening much faster than commercial development these days, it only covers residential. There's a lot to bite off. So this is the first step. It's with city staff still. We're hoping to get it in front of city council this year to get that voted into place while we work on some greater things. So there's been some, this is a stopgap that we intend to have repealed, and we'll advocate for its repeal once it's replaced with a more comprehensive zoning overlay for the neighborhood, which is what we were promised for a long time. And that seems very promising because the transit agency just did a couple years long TOD study for the Florida Avenue and Tampa Street corridors. And so what that is transit-oriented development, TOD. As we hopefully get back some of our transportation funding past the leadership of Commissioner Myers on that, hopefully we can get that back and have the extension streetcar come up further and up into Tampa Heights, and then a bus rapid transit line that runs up Florida Avenue and connects downtown Tampa Heights, Seminole Heights, and then jumps over to Sulphur Springs, and I think on Bush jumps over to go towards USF. And so making a dedicated lane for a fast bus network to run up and down and connect those areas. So Hart came in, did a full study of that entire corridor, just concluded that on Saturday, the 15th of this month. There was a charrette held here. The next one's on February 12th, another Saturday. But sort of a team building, team visioning exercise that Hart brings folks in to come do. So what do you envision seeing on this corridor? What do you want it to look like in terms of, do you want mixed use development? How wide would you like your sidewalks, shade trees? What do you want that to look like? So that is under process. We need to request of the city or county that they fund the further development of that. And what's great about it, man, is that through that process, a transit-oriented development or design overlay will be created concentrically around that corridor. So because Tampa and Florida run right through the heart of Tampa Heights, our entire neighborhood will be included in an overlay. So that overlay, at least early on, the purpose of it is to enhance walkability, enhance transit-friendly design, bikeability, all that, and putting those design standards into site planning and new construction. So it's good. So hopefully our stopgap gets us until probably 3 or 4 years until that's implemented. We could repeal our stopgap. And then the other great confluence, kind of 2 other great confluences coming along with that, that I want to mention is that Commissioner Myers is leading at the county to try to get another 1% sales tax added. The Alpha Transportation was struck down by the Supreme Court of the state, and that money has been sitting in limbo. That has to be the local match for any federal or state dollars to fund any public transit projects, an expansion of our bus routes, which have been severely cut back, the extension of the streetcar again into Tampa Heights to give us that connection to downtown Ybor. I think at this point, in high-speed rail connection is all being done privately, but there may be some sort of opportunity to use funds for that in the future for any sort of intra-city connection or commuter rail or something like that that may be in the plans. So that's hopefully coming together. So we've got to keep that on our radar. They're starting listening to public feedback sections. So hopefully that'll get back on the ballot and we pass that in a way that legally can't get struck down by the Supreme Court. So hopefully that. And then that also, other confluence with all of this coming together is something called the RAISE grant, or the Raising Up, that the U.S. Department of Transportation granted to the DOT. to make major improvements to that Florida and Tampa corridor. So that is going to go and create the dedicated lane of transit for the bus rapid transit line. It's going to improve all the drainage issues, with other climate resiliency issues. There's a potential undergrounding of the power if THCA plays nicely with that. More signalized crossings, safer pedestrian environment. I think wider sidewalks are going to come into it. So sort of a complete street, more pedestrian and transit friendly redo. All of that's all playing together and saying that we've got some big, exciting potential in the future, but there's steps to get that will work. Any questions about it?
So is the expansion of the current historic overlay also changing? It sounds like we're gonna try to stop that. Get that in the works and then wait on the transit oriented development rather than pushing for the expansion of the already existing historic.
Correct. The feedback that we got from the city, we did explore, so we said, hey, there's already a design overlay for about a third of the neighborhood right here. And we just extend that and capture the rest, because even if there's not a concentration of historic homes like there is here, there's the urban fabric for it, as well as many historic homes still littered throughout the neighborhood in a decent concentration, just not enough to qualify for a national historic district. The answer we got from historic preservation was probably not, but that would take years of study. And we don't have the money and the time and staff resources. Yes.
One big thing is that the shred is going to have the other ones are going to come and do it. And if this is of interest to you, please show up for that. They're probably really excited to get input from the city. I know that I will get the first one, but I'll get the second one. So we do have other chance to show up and participate in what neighbors look like. So anyway, this room is interested, please show up and do that meeting so that your input is in front of the city.
Yeah. And I have been pushing to get an online option for that, because they picked 2 Saturdays. And, that's difficult for some people, but either out having fun or maybe working. So hopefully we're going to online option for that.
The date I have is March 1st at 6 p.m. for the surtax for our area.
Yes, that's further to scroll down.
I'll slide. But the one thing I'd say about that is the sky's the limit. I think when they pass all the transportation, there is funding for roads that needed to be put in place to kind of sweeten the deal. They're starting from the ground up, so some of the ideas. We're now 4 years, 5 years behind. Is that percentage allocation? Need to actually end.
Yeah, absolutely. We are far behind. So those are in our agenda as well, and I will include that in the next email newsletter and post it online as well, so everybody is aware of that. But the more voices we can get and more input we can give our elected officials and the staff folks, the better. Anything else on those? All right, thank you. The next item of old business is the Robles Park Village redevelopment. There's not much to report on right now. I'm kind of on the board to make sure we get a report from the housing authority. But again, they have started moving residents out of the Robles Park Village. They came up with a master plan, which gives some feedback on how to improve that, both from a physical and a social human standpoint. And the package, the master plan was last out on the street to be bid upon by developers. This month, they're supposed to have awarded a developer, and we've not heard back on yet. We're told that is the next opportunity for community feedback is once that developers selected. Yeah.
So the findings are right to add that was a part of the conversation that we had with Pastor.
Yes.
Impact and involvement, making sure that they're with our needs, so that the kind of diversity that we have.
Okay. We hopefully will have something to report back on that in the next month or two. Another item of old business, the Southwest Quadrant parking permit program. That stalled out a little bit as a city. I don't know if anybody is living on Ross or West Ross down there, but we are working on it. Some of the requirements of the city for resident engagement threshold were not fully communicated. So we did a flyer to kind of help alleviate some of the parking overflow issues from Armature Works, which hasn't really been regulating their own parking. And people are disincentivized from paying for parking, so they're coming up into the street more often, blocking people's driveways and such. So the solution to that, after gathering input feedback for the whole quadrant, is to do a resident parking permit program. But the city came back and told me a week or two ago that they have to have the approval of 50% of homeowners on the street, even though we fired everybody multiple times. We did not reach the 50% threshold. People have been responding, so we have to knock on doors. So that's that update. Hopefully, again, we'll have that implemented for those neighbors soon. Moving on to my report on the agenda. One thing I just wanted to throw out there. In general, we'd love to have your participation. There's a lot going on in the neighborhood, as you can tell. We've had a great year in terms of rebounding from COVID-19 and the severity of it in 2020. Very well aware it's still with us today, but as we're rebuilding from the shock of that year, we're getting more participation amidst this situation. But we need more. There's just so much happening. I think you see it in how much of our activities have now started involving real estate development. We want to get back to many other things as well beyond that focus. We are just flooded right now with that. And so in order to accomplish those other things, we need more help. So I encourage you to join the committee, work on things like code enforcement, other good neighbor activities, other positive things that social aspects, other things that we can work on in the neighborhood. We need more assistance on that. So please email us and please just dedicate a little bit of your time to helping out with our activities in the neighborhood. The sky's the limit. If you have an idea, something you want to do, you want to clean the park, you want to clean the street, you want to host an event, as long as it meets the mission of the Civic Association, we'll be there to help. Kareem is not here still, correct? Okay, so we will skip over the CRA report. And Lena, do you have anything for the Junior Civic Association report on? Okay, that would be fine. I'll go ahead and introduce Commissioner Myers. Thank you for coming tonight. If there's anything you'd like to say, have you.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I just want to share with us the reason I don't announce that I'm coming to a Civic Association meeting, because it turns into a commissioners meeting. It is you all's meeting, and I'm a guest. I always make that clear wherever I go, because everybody then asks the questions become to me instead of trying to complete your agenda of your monthly meeting. And in some cases, it requires some of the Civic Association to have 2 meetings that same month, and it's unfair. So I just show up and try to mingle in the beginning. But one of the reasons I'm here tonight is because I am Gwen Myers, County Commissioner Gwen Myers. Some of y'all know me as Gwen Myers, County Commissioner Gwen Myers. I received several emails, and I also sit on the TPO board in regard to what's going on in Tampa Heights. Okay, and so I said, At the January TPO meeting, I asked, as I call the Secretary of FDOT, Mr. Secretary, let's hold a second meeting, okay, to address some of the concerns. Because we have to work together. It's no attack. I tell anybody that all the time. I don't go to meetings to attack you. I don't come to be attacked. I come to see how we can work together on behalf of Hillsborough County government and the organization. We find a way to work together. That's all I do all day long if I'm not in the meeting. I'm on the phone with staff trying to work out issues. How do you work and be a better government? And this is why I'm here tonight. And I asked, and they're talking back and forth, come up, Mr. Secretary, that's where I come, Mr. Secretary. Would he join me tonight? Because there's several issues. I get all the emails. The problem, we've been discussing these issues in our TPO meeting. So for some of you all, it is not new. You're on the phone with us. I'm in person at our TPO meeting. We have public meeting and you address your concerns later in that meeting or in the next meeting. And I'm gonna say thank you, Lena, for giving us the floor right now because it was your report. But I asked Mr. Secretary, how can we build a better relationship that you hear us and we hear you? How do we work together? I know one of the issues been the 1902, so I remember very well in my mind, the house on Lamar. And I've asked, is there anything that we can do to preserve it? He's the secretary for District 7 for the state of Florida. Okay, and appointed by, I can't remember what governor, but he's appointed by the governor, okay? So the information that he brings to us in policy meeting downtown, that's the information we have to go on. No one makes up something to hurt a community. No one makes up something under my watch to hurt a community. I'm gonna always look out for District 3 because I've said to people, I want District 3 to prosper. Not just we talk about East Tampa and what's going on in East Tampa, because that's all you hear all the time. We gotta make East Tampa better. Well, what about making the district better? Tampa Heights is a part of District 3. I represent District 3. So if we improve the district, we all make it better for the district that we live in. So that's my whole point. I share wherever I go, I want the entire District 3 to prosper. So we have some concerns with District 3 regarding the Tampa Heights. And I'm gonna ask the Secretary of FDOT to share some of his information and we give him his undivided attention.
Well, good evening. First, thank you for having me here today. I have been here before. Unfortunately, I think during COVID, we didn't see a whole lot of each other. I personally am sad that it's kind of gotten to the point now where the dialogue is kind of going backwards. Because at one point, I felt we were making some really good progress. When I came into my position, which was almost 5 years ago, that was a really bad time. Those who were here then remember how bad. You all remember some of those alternative A's and B's that were 300 parcels coming out of Tampa Heights. And when I first came into the position, one of the commitments I made, and I actually, Rick, I think you're one of the people I made it to, was that we were going to rethink this because it didn't appear to be acceptable to come in and make that kind of an impact on the community. And right away, what we started to do was take things out of this project. We took express lanes out north of I-4, saying those are going to have impacts to the right of way. It's going to cause us to fly right away along 275. Then we came up with some other alternatives that still kept express lanes, but they still required properties, maybe 30 or 40 properties. And we continued that dialogue. And we finally got to the point, and I challenged my team and I said, guys, how can we take no property from Tampa Heights? They said, well, all the way we can do that is express lane to the downtown interchange completely, which was a completely different concept. It was nothing compared to what it was ever in the past. And we said, well, what is it though that we have to do? What are we trying to do? What is the minimum thing we have to do out there? And they came back and they said, we need to address the fact that we have 1,000 crashes a year within downtown interchange. How can we go ahead and do something about that? I mean, I know that it impacts the community, and it does bother me that it impacts the community. I also know that anybody that drives down 275 and tries to get to I-4, you see the crazy stuff that happens out there. People trying to get over to that one lane. A third or more of the traffic is trying to get over there, and they don't do it civilly. They go down to the end, they cut over, they get, and we have crashes all the time. And those crashes not only cause crashes and have that crash, it causes more crashes because people get stuck behind it. Two ranges paralyzed in the last 6 months, responding to crashes that were out on the roads and people were not paying attention to. We're trying to solve the safety problem. If we had a communication error in how we said what the impacts were going to be, we were proud, quite honestly, that we're not going to have to buy any more right of way. But we said, we thought we would make it clear, we have to use the right of way we already own to the maximum extent that we can. But we want to work with the community to see what we can do. And so what we heard back from the community was, you guys are just focusing on the interstate. You're not focusing on anything else. And so I went back to my team and I said, guys, what we're hearing is that they just don't want us to come in there, widen the interstate lanes and not pay attention to the rest of the community. So what we've done, and it may not be as evident to everybody as it is to me, because I see it all the time, maybe it's not communicated as much. But we have invested $125 million in the last 3 years. You're going to see built that are not interstate improvements in this community. And I'll tell you some of them because I don't think you probably maybe even know all of these. They've all been put into the work program by DOT. We've invested $40 million in what we call the Tampa Heights mobility improvements. That's doing pedestrian, bicycle safety, putting wider sidewalks along Florida, along Nebraska, along Tampa, along other roadways. We've made that. We applied for the federal grant, and when the federal grant only came in with $17 million, we took the extra $8 million in out of our money. We also programmed $68 million in state money to extend the streetcar up into the heights, so that we can have the streetcar come up here. I went to Tallahassee. What happens is on those kinds of dollars, you gotta go to Tallahassee, and you gotta go up there and make your case. And I was standing next to the people from Miami, the people from Orlando, the people from Fort Lauderdale, who all were coming with local money. And all I was coming with is, we'll find the local money. We don't have it yet, but we'll find it. And we got the $68 million, the biggest grant that Tampa's ever got, and it's still there. And I'm holding it, I'm protecting it, even though we don't have that local money, because we're trying to do things to help in the community. We have bike projects. We have $1 million on for $4 million for a bikeway project on Ola Avenue, $3 million for a bikeway project on Central Avenue, $3.5 million for a bikeway project on Highland. We have $2 million for pedestrian signals to be put up all along Florida Avenue. We've also relocated 8 historic properties within Tampa Heights. We've relocated 64 historic properties overall, renovated them. Relocated them, renovated them, and then the proceeds of those were given to the city to use in a grant program that is available for people to use to renovate homes in this area. We've tried very hard to be a good community partners, and I know that we don't always bring good news. I know that not everything that you want we can deliver, and I apologize that it's not always good news. The walls that are moving as part of the downtown interchange project, there are some areas where we're moving those walls. We're staying within our right of way, but we are going to be moving some walls because that's really the only way that we're able to make some of those safety improvements that allow us to get some of the crashes hopefully to be taken care of. This facility that Lena's taking such good care of is another example. Work closely, and so we've leased this, and we want to continue to work with Lena on other projects. We want to be a good partner. The downtown interchange project, one of the things that I think happened, and I've heard from some people that say, you know, you said something at one meeting and the next meeting you said something different. You had a different drawing. I don't think that. I don't disagree that probably did happen. And I think one of the reasons is when you look back in the past at things, you kind of look at it in a static manner. It was a very dynamic process. we were making changes all the time, coming up with the concepts and bringing them back out. Also, sometimes when we went to one meeting, we bring a bracket that was slightly different than we bring it different meeting, because perhaps there was stuff we wanted to show you to that content, and was different than stuff we wanted to show to a different. If we didn't communicate well on some of this wall movement in there, I apologize. I'm sure we could have done a better job, or COVID, it wasn't very easy for anybody. But I tell you, I can promise you, there was never any intent to deceive, there was never any intent to do anything that would be dishonest. I swear that we were trying to be as honest and open as we could, because we've done a better job problem solving. But we tried, and what I want to do at this point, we were asked by the TPO, and I readily agreed to it, to meet with the community. But what I'd like to propose, as opposed to a meeting where we get some of my team up here and we have speaker after speaker come up and say things. What I'd like to do is I'd like to get you all as a group to get your concerns together. What are the 8 to 10 or 12 areas that are the biggest concerns about the walls, about the aesthetics, about the landscaping, any of that stuff? Come up with a plan of the things you'd like for us to discuss. Let us come to you, and maybe we get like some tables of 8 to 10 people at a table together. Here, we bring our staff, we bring the people that are going to work on this project. One thing you remember, we haven't even designed this yet. The design is still going to be done. We still have time to work on the design. One thing that complicated it was we didn't have any money for this project in the next 5 years until about 3 or 4 months ago. When they found stimulus money, and he said this project was such a high priority on the list of the TPO and the transportation management area for the region that they put money on. And so it did move very quickly. It moved quicker than we normally do. And that could have also exacerbated the fact that not all the information got out as quickly as we can. I'm not going to lie to you and say that during construction there's not going to be some discomfort. I know there will. I know there will. But we want to work to try to make it as good as possible. It won't maybe be as good as you'd all like it to be every day, but we're going to try to work to see what we can do on that. And then what we can do is at that meeting, we hear more. We show you some options. We hear what you think about it. We talk about it, and then we'll go back and we'll come back with a proposal to you and say, this is what we can do. We'd like to be able to do that with the community. The one big sore thumb, and Rick had asked us to be transparent. We wanted transparency. In my mind, transparency sometimes can be a painful thing, right? Because if you're transparent, you're telling the truth, you're being open, and you're saying everything, you're laying everything out on the table. And it may not be a popular thing, and it may not be something people want to hear. I can tell you that I've tried very hard to try to find a way to do something with the 1921 building. I've been in that building. I went under the building. I went into as much of the building that they allowed me to go into. Parts of it they wouldn't let me go because of the structural capacity of the floors, and the stairs aren't any longer stable. It was scheduled for demolition in 2017 because when it was determined by the historic preservation group and us which properties were in good shape to be able to either rehabilitate or remove, the other properties were the ones that were selected. This was for demolition. We were asked to not demolish it in 2017. We had the demolition contractor ready to tear it down. And we said, no, let's wait. We put it on the market again. We tried to get it on the market again. Can we call time on this? Can I just, I'll be done in about 2 minutes. Is that okay?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. So we recently went back out and were told that the building is structurally unsound. The police have complained to us that they're constantly coming out to it. People break into it all the time, even though it's boarded up. What I'd like to do is to propose that area was designated as a buffer area in the SCIS, so that we wouldn't have homes that close to the interstate in that area. It's designated to be a community asset like the Greenway. We'd like to work with the community that after we demolish the property, to create a park, a dog park, a recreational park, an area that can be a community asset that we won't ever build something on. And we would work with the community to see what you'd like to be, a community garden, a community feature. And so I asked you to work as transparency. We'd like to work with you. I hope that perhaps some of you would want to work with us. All right, now on to that.
Thank you, Secretary, Commissioner. I did want to give a few minutes to make sure that you got your message out. This was not on the agenda for tonight. This is a little unexpected, and we have other things to accomplish. Now, I said there's a lot to unpack in that statement, and a lot to discuss. So I would like to put a reasonable time limit and just give everybody that we should have some of this discussion. And I've been having some of this discussion, and it'll need to continue after tonight.
Can we find out how many people would have talked to this before we? So can we figure out?
Sure. Are there, a quick show of hands if you would like to make a comment on the issue?
That's all right. Let them.
He made a request of having to. How do you think that kind of question? You can't just ask him that. As a board member, that's in right. So he should be right now, like, proceed with what he wanted to do before us.
I think that's suggested. Let's find out the first. So I would say, I just want to make sure that we're not here to talk on this issue.
Can I suggest that Rick speak, because I have a feeling that some of what he's going to talk about is going to either address or cover. I live at 2906 and has experience in our house already. So I'm sure that he's going to cover some things and then open up to questions, because I think it's going to be a better conversation.
One thing can I say? Sure. When we hear everyone tonight, keep in mind, we do want to have another community meeting so that you can present your plans and your ideas to FDOT. Okay, so you have time enough to think about what you would like to present. We didn't come tonight and say it has to be voted on tonight. What we're saying is, as Mr. Secretary said, schedule a meeting that we can come back, or either Mr. Secretary, you schedule a meeting. Okay, if it's your next month's meeting, where this association can have their say-so in what FDOT is doing and what FDOT is asking the community to do, how we can work together. That's all.
I can promise you about this.
But that would take up almost your whole meeting. So that's why I'm saying a separate meeting. I want us to realize that that's what that meeting should be.
There's a lot to address between now and whenever we can coordinate all of that. Maybe I'll set it right after the next holiday. Rick, go right ahead.
This could not possibly be set up any worse than it is. Let me just say that. This was not intended to be a debate between the Department of Transportation and me. But it's kind of set up that way. I'm not going to take it. We'll try to stick with what it is that I came here to say tonight by way of the Transportation Committee report. And also, Commissioner Myers, I extended an invitation to you to come tonight because I wanted you to hear what the community had to say. And had you come in the spirit of the invitation, you would have had an opportunity to hear a full report, probably a discussion. I'm not sure why you chose to bring Secretary Gwen here tonight. This was probably not the best place for him to be this evening in this way, but here we are. I believe you represent District 3. That's us. And I would appreciate it if you spent some time with us. That's all I'll say about that. Hopefully we'll have a chance to address that. Now, ironically, 2 years ago, almost to the day, the Department of Transportation came to this room the same night that we were having our general election. And they made a full presentation, complete with slides.
There were 4 people here that night from DOT, including Secretary Gwen. And what they told us that evening, and it's documented in the slides, it's documented in the tape, that we would not expect, we should not expect, we will not have any right of way impacts in Tampa Heights, not to the community writ large, not to the historic district, and not to any of our historic properties. That was the promise made at that time. And it was, for all intents and purposes, despite my efforts to stay in the flow of information, because I'm on the CAC, I go to all the CAC meetings, I attend most of the TPO board meetings, at least virtual, we're talking about 2020 and 21 here. I never ever saw anything suggest to me that that promise from January had changed. It wasn't until November the 17th of 2021, 2 months ago, that I accidentally learned that there was going to be wall movement along the eastern barrier. Because I was having coffee with a couple of Secretary Gwen's folks over at the state, and one of them just happened to mention that the wall was going to move, and after that, we would have landscape opportunities. So please mark that date, aside from the fact that I practically choked on my coffee. That was the date that I first learned that we were looking at structural wall intrusion along the border of Tampa Heights. Now, if there were details being worked out of Kennedy Drive, they were doing it in their little echo chamber up there. It wasn't being shared with us. We were being deprived of due process in that whole scenario. So since November the 17th of 2021, up until today, I've been busy, and others have been busy, just trying to ferret out what the heck it is that's actually doing this. And little by little, we've begun to learn. One of the things that I have is a sheet of paper, right? That sheet of paper is part of an email that was sent to me by a gentleman named Adam Gwynn's. He's a project engineer, a consultant, as I understand it, for the Department of Transportation, and he's overall, I guess, basically the foreman for the downtown interchange work that's being done at this point north of Interstate 4 up to Hillsborough Ave along the 75 corridor. He was kind enough to respond to me in an email, which is what I've given to you, about what it is that we might anticipate in terms of work that is going to be done over the process of this first half of the project. There are 2 parts. The first part is already under contract, and if you'll notice, when you drive around on Fort Nebraska, they've already broken ground on this. They're already flat rubber, they're jackhammering, the thing's already vibrating my house, and then the floor brass on Elmore, I'm already feeling the vibration, and they're on the other side of the exit. So what I asked him to do, this is a nice guy, all right? If you have a chance to talk to him, I hope you do. You may have some concerns of yourself, your own. What he did in that email that I gave you was lay out a pretty generic, but nonetheless a bit of a timeline as to what it is we might expect over the course of the next year, maybe 15 months. And let me say as a caveat, I'm trying to figure out what it is they're doing to us. I'm also fighting to stop them from doing it to us. That process is still ongoing. We haven't given up. There's still action at the CAC level. There's still action at the TPO level. And I'm still hopeful that there's a way to engineer this thing in such a way that we will not ultimately have to suffer some type of structural intrusion. But let's lay that aside for a moment. Let's talk about what we're actually facing. They've already broken ground. They're going to work north first, Florida, Nebraska, up to Hillsborough, actually north of Hillsborough. And then they're going to swing back around and come back this way, coming into the Florida, Nebraska exit. And ironically, the seam between the first half of the project and the second half of the project, the first half being what they're working on now, the seam for that project is about 100 yards south of my front door. If you know where Brenda Christian's home is on Elmore, basically that's ground zero. When they get to us, which is probably going to be in late 2022, this year or early 2023, they will be demolishing that wall, moving it forward about 12 to 15 feet, still a little iffy there, about 12 to 15 feet, and reconstructing another barrier wall there. That's half of the project. The other half of the project is to take it from that scene south, Columbus, Palm, 7th Avenue, to Jefferson Street, that entire arc. The folks that live on Elmore, Brenda Christian, if we're going to personalize it, Brenda Christian gets to experience this construction project twice. At the end of 22, they start a construction project, tearing it down. It's going to take several months. They stop, they go away. Sometime later, we're not clear when, 23, 24, 25, who knows, they'll come back and they'll reconstruct and rebuild south. So 2 construction projects on Elmore, 1 construction project heading south on Columbus. At Elmore, the northern end of the Tampa Heights impact corridor, we're talking about 12 to 15 feet wall intrusions. At the southern end, which would be south of Palm, around the AKA house, 7th Avenue, Central, there the wall is supposed to come out about 50 feet. Now, this is based on about a 45-minute conversation that I had with an engineer at Blythe Andrews on January 5th, a young man by the name of Jeff Draft, I think. Great guy, very nice. In 45 minutes, he walked me through a roll plot that looks like this. And I brought Brady after the meeting, don't mind when I come, I'll be happy to talk you through it. In 45 minutes, he told me more about this project and what it is that I could expect, the good, the bad, and the ugly, than I had learned in the previous 2 years. It doesn't take long to communicate this message, but what is clear to me is the Department of Transportation did not want to communicate the message. We were set up in such a way, ladies and gentlemen, that at the end of 2022 or early 2023, Brenda Christian and I walked down to the front porch in her bunny slippers and bathrobe with a cup of coffee to find her movie. She knew nothing about this project until I went and knocked on her door on November the 17th. And the same is true of everybody up and down Elmore or anywhere else that I've gone and tried to be the town prior to the moments. So, if I get upset about this, and I am, if you're not feeling it, I'm back there in the back row, you know, you're not getting my vibe, I'll work harder. The reality of this is that we have people that are facing serious hurt here. It's health, it's quiet enjoyment, it's loss of property values. Those things are real, right? Whatever McKinley thinks, whatever the folks out on McKinley Drive think, the impacts that they have are down where folks live, right? That's the upset. Now, it's possible that we might have gone through a process of charrettes, of concept development, the kinds of things we did back in 15 and 16 when we were dealing with the TBX project. It's possible that we might have come up with some solutions in 2020, in 2021, and 2022, well, 2021, that might have ameliorated this damage. What I'm really upset about, and what I hope all of you are keyed in on, that the due process, that we have been completely blacked out of the discussion, but we are the ones that are very the folks in historic Ybor City, in VM, Ybor, and in Seminole Heights, they've known what's been coming for them for the last year and a half. I've known what's going on over there for the last year and a half. I'm upset for them. I've been at meetings arguing against what they're about to experience. We've won some, we've lost some. I've never said a word about Tampa Heights in any public hearing because I didn't know there was anything to talk about. So it's that ignoring of us, the disrespect that has been shown to us that is so absolutely great. And I hope it will be to you too as we continue to engage. Now, this doesn't mean that we can't have constructive conversations. But as I said 2 years ago, and I'm going to take saying it, I'm not necessarily proud of it. My French wasn't great that night.
But if you don't keep a real close eye on what the Department of Transportation is doing, if you're not vigilant every single day, they will find a way to screw you. I didn't use that word 2 years ago. I'm smarter and more level-headed today than I was then. But they will. And you know what? They did. So here we are. Secretary Gwen is here telling you he has clean hands. I beg to differ. The department does not have clean hands here. He's not a bad guy. He's doing his job. I said that 2 years ago too. But his job is to build roads. And if we don't stand up and fight, they will entomb us. I said that 2 years ago as well. And they're in the process of doing it right now. Connie mentioned the vibration. That's real. There were 2 or 3 different days a week ago when the house that we lived in at 2906 Elmore did in fact vibrate for a short period of time. It's a low rumbling kind of thing. The china in your cabinets rumble, the columns out in front of the porch, that rumbles. I have an almost 100-year-old house. I have no idea what effect that's going to have on us in terms of the structural integrity of the house. But it is a concern. So, I guess I'm going to leave that there, other than to say this one last time. We have been active in public comment settings in front of the CAC and in front of the Citizens Advisory Committee of the Transportation Planning Organization, that's the CAC. We have been active in front of the Transportation Planning Organization Board. That's a board that Commissioner Myers sits on, our representative as the District 3 single district member. She is our representative there. We have been encouraged, and people have in fact been answering the call to show up for public comment, to verbalize your concerns. It's virtual, but you can phone it in, or to write it in. But to continue that pressure, because these good folks, Commissioner Myers, Commissioner Overman, Commissioner Smith, Mariella Smith, let me see, Joe Citro on City Council, John Bienfelder on City Council, I'm forgetting, there's somebody I'm forgetting. The point is, this is an election season. Secretary Myers is back up for re-election. Overman is, Mariella Smith is. You know, the county-wise, there are commissioners too. They're responsible to us. So Kemp, Overman, Mariella Smith, they represent us every bit as much as Gwen Myers does. There are people on this county commission, there are people on the TPO board. So please exercise your leverage, your authority as an elector to let the people who come to you for votes and money, because they will be, let them know that we expect representation from them, and we will notice if we don't get it. We need advocates. We need advocates here, and we need advocates there. The roll clock, I guess to further amplify the point on how the messaging took place, there was a similar roll clock to this that was shown in the slide in February of 2020. It did not have anything on it about wall intrusion. This one was used by the TPO board in May of 2021, less than a year ago. It does not have anything about wall intrusion. In between, there is a map. I don't know when they created it, but apparently it showed up at a meeting in February of 2020, about a month after they came here. And there is a map that exists out there that has an annotation on the roll clock that points to the wall just down from my house that says it is supposed to be relocated. There's also a disclaimer in red on these maps that says you're not supposed to rely on it because they're not reliable yet. So I don't know what it is you can believe or can't believe, frankly. I tended to want to believe the word of the Department of Transportation when they said we were going to suffer no impacts. When I asked Kurt Bogan, one of their senior officials at Blythe Andrews, January 5, Kurt, how do you justify, how do you reconcile the promise of no impact and what I'm now seeing on this map? And his response to me was, it depends on how you define impacts. Well, I define impact as a wall across the street from my house being torn down and brought closer, and vibration in my house. house. I define that as impact. I don't know what world he's living in. As far as I'm concerned, they're constantly broke. Now it's our job to hold them to it. Does anybody have any questions? I know I've probably exceeded my time, and so is everybody else in this room. So I'll take you through. Anybody have any questions? Okay, CAC meeting is next week on Wednesday. The TPO meeting, the board meeting is the following week on the 9th. So February the 2nd, February the 9th, CAC, TPO board. If you want to take an opportunity to get your public comment, you can, all you have to do is tap into the agenda. I'll tell you how to get to it. It'll show you all the links to get there. I'm going to leave this whole plot out here. If anybody has any questions, I'll stick around and I'll be happy to walk you through it. Yes, sir.
I guess this goes to you to the THC, which is, I understand the desire for community input, but the shovels are in the ground. So by the time we have meetings that have any substance, the shovels are in the ground, and it's too late. Is my fear justified that if we give it 2 months to have feedback or have meetings like was, presented, at that point, are we too far into the process and no choice in that thing? We basically have to do what's already done because we lost 2 months of time trying to stop it versus trying to work together to find a solution. Sure. Is that a valid concern for the entire area?
Well, we lost a year and a half. Not figured out. And the TPO board did suggest that there be a town hall meeting held here, bringing folks in from the TPO and other parties, including obviously us, to discuss these issues in a broader way and more time. At least walk the impact order so people have an opportunity to actually see what their votes are impacting. A lot of these folks don't live around here. A lot of them never did. So yes, let's see. If we can have a productive substitute meeting next week, we should. But yes, time is crazy and they're jumping right in.
Yes, sir.
Chris, what's your?
So let me just take where we are in the process. And it is a little confusing because Rick, there was 2 projects. The first project that's under construction now is to kind of get the 2 lanes that will lead to that off ramp to start north of Hillsborough. So you don't have to wait and get past MLK and try to dive in. And then to tie into this project, but then the funding became available for this project. We haven't even hired a designer contractor yet. That probably won't happen until late summer or early fall. During that time, they'll be competing for the project. They won't even have design yet. So I think now is the perfect time because we'll be working with the teams that are going to be putting the proposals together, and we can say to them, this is what we want you to look at trying to put into your proposal. So it's not too late. I think it's a good time. If we were going to say wait 6 months, it probably would be later than we'd like. But I think if we can do that, and we thought about if we can get like from y'all, give us your top areas that you want to talk about. And Rick, at the meeting, they didn't say a town hall style. We talked about a charrette type meeting with an agenda that we could break into small groups so we could have kind of smaller group conversations and then come back together with the results. But I think when you have 40 or 50 people trying to all talk one at a time, doesn't necessarily work if you get like 10 people in a table and you all kind of work. So that's it.
Well, I'd just like to mention, I was here 2 weeks ago. Hart had a meeting here, and you can share your input, and then they posted it on the poster boards in the back where each group shared their thoughts. And they had different opinions of what they wanted to see with art. So you can do something like that to allow everyone, we break up in groups and you can share your thoughts.
Absolutely.
But I think the sooner the better with the meeting. I don't know if y'all want to send the secretary some dates. We send some dates that you all will be available.
We can be available any time. I would suggest that you give yourself enough time to come up with the ideas that you want. I thought if we did it in, my thought was maybe early March, because once you give us your ideas, we want to do some research so we can bring you things that are possible.
Sure. So I would like to add this. Yes, I mean, we're open the meeting, we encourage it. But since work has already begun outside the boundaries of the Tampa Heights neighborhood, but that can clearly be felt by folks in there. Again, that work is going on, and that work can stop until that we can review and know what those impacts are. Those that should have been disclosed ahead of time. I mean, and you say, the things we want, there has been very rigorous behind the scenes email logging that Rick has been involved in through other transit advocates and transportation watchdogs that have been involved that are very active in the community that may not be in this neighborhood as association, but they're active. You know, I personally have seen the documents similar to this that points to just a couple of selected structures for vibration monitoring. So we don't even have a clear idea of what vibration monitoring is going on. And workers are convinced that it's outside of the boundary of patterns and vibration check. If it's on the other side of the interstate, you can imagine what's going to be when it crosses on our side. But as we're going on, this is what I'm saying.
We can't stop the project at this point. We can't stop the project. What we can do, and what we've tried to do, is get people, we've gone door to door to try to knock on doors and talk to people about these exact items. And even to help document the conditions of the.
But I think that occurred after the movement, right? Right, but that.
It starts after the contractor is hired.
No, but
because they're responsible.
right, that door knocking.
Yeah.
Occurred within the last 2 months.
Yes, because what they.
After we started
Yes.
raising.
The contractor is responsible for making sure that no damage is done to your property. If there is, they have to pay for it. And that's why they want to work with you to document, so that if you have a crack show up in your house, it's easy to tell that crack showed up because of this project. We hope it doesn't. But if it does, you've got documentation and you can show Mr. Contractor, this is your fault. You need to fix it.
Sure.
But you have to let them on your property so they can do it if it's possible.
That aside, I think at least the folks that are within a radius of effect right now, I would say need to be absolutely engaged immediately with all of that documentation, as well as all of their feedback on what's currently going on. And yes, in terms of a shred, we absolutely do that. But I think everything.
And Adam is the right person. Adam is absolutely, he works for us. He's a consultant, but he works for us. He's absolutely the right person to work with you on those items, because he's out there every day and he's the one overseeing the contract. He doesn't work for the contractor, he oversees the contract.
Sure, but the other issue I have with how government in general approaches public engagement. I've been involved with this since I moved back to Tampa in 2009. I'm involved in a lot of public advocacy campaigns for public transit. This is my second go around as neighborhood president. I'm continually disappointed by how public engagement occurs at every level. The heart study that we're talking about seems like a great direction. My wife and I work meetings because we own a company and business on the weekends. We have a 4-year-old and 1-year-old. And I'm just speaking personal experience, but there are other conditions, whether it's family conditions, work conditions, health conditions, and getting genuine public engagement takes very active work in the public sector, not what occurred at the last listening session that FDOT had, where I was the only one in the neighborhood that received an email on December 22nd for an invitation for public engagement on January 5th. I was already at the town Christmas. I missed the email. We did not blast out the neighborhood on social media or email to invite them to public engagement because I was the only one aware of that. Then you proceeded to blame me via email for lack of community engagement. I took personally. This was during the holiday period. I would ask that if we're going to do community engagement, it's more of a heart thing, we make it available online, available for a long period. That any proceeding behind the scenes design be put on board for that adequate period where we can host nighttime, daytime, weekend, public engagement sessions with the same content at them, as well as an online option that stays available, that we notice as many different ways as possible, and that you do not rely on a volunteer like this board to do all of that.
I'll be glad to, Brian. I hope I didn't mean to blame you. We were asked to try to do that before the TPO board meeting, which was on January 11th.
So we sent the email out as soon as we got the request for the meeting. The only date that we could find was in there. I'm sorry, it was right after the holidays. Maybe that wasn't the best date, but it wasn't intentional. And I only mentioned when they said you didn't notify anybody, I asked my guys, why didn't you notify anybody? They said we sent Brian an email here. Could it have been a better outreach? Probably, but it was a short time frame. We were asked to get it done right after the holidays, but we're gonna do more meetings. We want to work.
Okay, I think for the sake of time, we need to move on.
Yeah, I'm fine.
We need to finish our meeting tonight.
Thanks. Well, we do need to get to the second subject at hand. Unfortunately, and that's part of why with this unexpected appearance, we still have to go through bylaws and articles of incorporation amendment on our agenda. You know, you saw earlier tonight, we are just under fire for a lot of change in this neighborhood, aside from interstate and public transportation issues. And the folks that come and spend their evening here and tune in online care about this broad array of things. So, you know, to be able to plan this would be great, but part of the problem is that the clock is ticking on so many things. The clock's ticking because work has begun on that section of wall movement and another section that's at least within a stone's throw of Tampa Heights, and there's a physical effect to that. And there's been a ticking time bomb across the street where we felt that there's been a lot of miscommunication about that too. I understand that the house is in horrific shape. We as a community and this organization made the point that that occurred during FDOT's watch. There's been very specific challenge to that process of preservation, what they call mothballing, and the appropriateness of that. All of that aside, because I know you don't want to walk backwards on what happened in the past, although I think that's important. I feel like I've laid out an opportunity for a community win. A community win would say, you know what, maybe this house should come down on some people's opinions. Maybe, you know, it is in absolutely terrible shape right now. We're not going to talk about whose fault that deterioration from 2015 to now is. But why don't we flip the script and say, how can we provide a win for the community? How can we just absolutely say, you know what, it doesn't have to come down. Let's get creative together. Let's find a funding source to say, this is a historically contributing building to our National Historic District. It was the second home, the apartment home of the city physician for the city. There were a lot of people, including notable mobsters, that lived and were born in that building. There's a history of this building. It was noted for its uniqueness as one of the few apartment buildings in Tampa Heights that shows our diversity of housing, single family homes, apartments that, whether folks believe it or not, I mean, there are multiple reasons to find this historically significant. But what we hear is that historical significance really just doesn't overcome the state that it's in right now. But if we flip the script and say, you know, let's come up with a win-win. Let's find a way to preserve and put a community use for a historic building against the odds. Let's not focus on pointing blame about how we got to where it is exactly today, but where could it go in the future? Well, it could come down and we could have a lot of disappointed residents here, and disappointment is an understatement. Or we could say, you know what, let's work together at the state, county, maybe even federal level to secure this place and find a win for it. And I'll tell you what, right now tonight, because you made the comment to me that there have been no legitimate proposals put forward, I've spoken to multiple property investors. I know that our Junior Civic Association has put forth an option to save that building, to use it, to find ways to come up with the funds. And I think there are legitimate proposals out there. And tonight I'll put my money where my mouth is, and I will pay to put a new roof on there myself and figure out how I may or may not be able to get reimbursed for that. But I'll put it out there if that's what it's going to take to save this building. And if I can make the roof leak issue go away and secure that, and you know what? I have a master's in construction development, and I will come and bring Gwynn and all of my tools. I will secure those windows. I will do a better job of securing the structure and entrances. And if you'll allow me to do that, then I think we can save this thing. But it's sad that it takes me, a young father with 2 family businesses to run, and an organization to work on, and a host of community issues, to go and put my own money into this. I mean, is that what it's going to take? I will do it. I will write a check tomorrow.
Brian, I said that because
To a
to be
roof.
transparent with you. It's not safe for you to go into that building and work on it. We're not going to take the liability for that. We have exhausted our opportunities. I'm sorry, but I will work with you to use that property for a park, for anything it can be for a community asset. But we've determined that that structure has no viable, nobody's come forward with, even to go inside to inspect it, to determine what needs to be done. The estimates we've gotten from our folks have been $1.4 million was the last one I saw. The building is completely structurally unsound. And so.
When's the last time a structural report was done? We asked for one, we got one from 2008, when it was not structurally unsound. That's not what that
If
report
you got
was.
that master's degree, if you show pictures that you've taken, you'll see that it is. But I could argue with you all night about it. All I can tell you is that's the decision that's been made. I know you don't like it. I'm sorry.
It's not that I don't like it. I don't think it's accurate.
Okay.
It's not about not liking it, sir.
I really don't have anything
It's
to add
about
on that.
how
I
do you
can
flip the
figure out-
script and generate a win here.
I
think a lot of us in the room are willing to find a way to make that happen, roll up our sleeves like we've done in this building. But the opportunity is not being offered. The opportunity is not saying, let's create a
We're on day
community.
60. We asked for a proposal within 60 days. We're on day 60.
Yeah, that's your fault.
My question,
You have a
I'm sorry,
secret
but I-
proposal, and might I remind you, and not trying to be arrogant, but if I cross that line, that's okay. You are employed by the state of Florida. We are taxpayers and voters of the state of Florida.
We're employed by all the members.
I am not paid 8 hours a day to try to find solutions to community issues. Neither is anyone in this room.
But we also have a whole district that I'm in charge of, and I'm sorry that you don't feel like I'm giving enough attention, but I'm telling you, over the last 4 years, I have given more attention to this neighborhood than any other area in my.
Because we're the confluence of three interstate
Because we were
junctions.
trying to help.
But Mr. Secretary, Hancock Heights is the most impacted neighborhood around here by Department of Transportation. So you should pay more attention to us than anybody else.
I agree.
Not only do we have this monster that every year it keeps growing. And if we don't stand up at times like this and say enough is enough, we're going to be wiped out as Hancock Heights. Not only do we have that, we got this big road here, we got the other state road here, one of the ugliest roads in our community. You break our community in half, not only does it, the interstate come north and south, it turns right here in Hancock Heights. And then it goes this way again. That's impact to a neighborhood. Not only a neighborhood that's an urban neighborhood, but it's impact to an area that we are supposed to care so much about, that we initiated the historic preservation of this community. We keep on hanging on to the fact that we are the first suburbs of the city of Hancock. Communities have some rights. Even at the federal government, they say, this is what you have to do in certain districts. This is how you're supposed to treat people. And there's a thing called Title VI that says that we have some place in this whole process. So for you to stand up here and say, well, this is the way it's gonna be, that is just not, that's just not.
And that's why that's why we found $125 million in investment.
Wait.
And we have followed every federal regulation and more that are completely separate. From the rest
I
of the
disagree with you. I disagree with you.
Okay.
But what we do is what we're supposed to do.
Yes.
That's why we are in our community.
I agree with you.
And this is what you are supposed to pay attention to. Not just wait until when everything is shifted and changed. We have one promise here, we come back another promise. Mr. Secretary, I have communicated with your staff for years. That's proper. We have been talking about it over and over. We have community, your staff meetings as a group about that property. And I promise you that those conversations have happened since 2017, which you just pointed. We've been talking about getting, identifying those who might be able to put more investment in that property. Your staff said, well, oh, somebody wanted it. So while we were asking to put this fence around the property that's right next to it, because it's a part of the lease, and we keep having vagrants, we keep having dumping. The community kept their eyes on that. Every time there was a fire, immediately, the reason why it's still there is because the community watched it so much. And immediately they would call, we would get the fire truck out there and tell you all about what's happening. We care about stuff in our community. There's a discussion that talks about what happened when this interstate was first determined that it would run through urban communities. We know that nationally, one of the things that decisions were made that it was they ran them through communities of least resistance. And this was one of the areas that was totally destroyed from being an African American core of this community to be to run this interstate in here. We know that. When I first came, and I don't even stop in a minute. When I first came to Tampa in the early 1880s, one of the first things I heard about was the I-4. And the big conversation was that it was a design flaw, and putting that interstate there next to a T, I don't know about this, I'm not an engineer. They said that was a flaw there. Ever since then and before that, every time DOT comes to us, we gotta fix this, and it'll be the last fix, and it's for safety reasons. Today, the developers are the same thing again. And you know what? Every time the fix is more and more and more and more and more of our neighborhood. At some point, we gotta object to that.
I don't blame you at all. You know, I understand. You may not realize it, but my house was taken by the interstate when I was a young boy. It happened. I understand it wasn't fair, and it was not something that should have happened back then. I understand. If we could have gone back 60 years and built it somewhere else, that would probably been the right thing to do. There's no debate about that.
There are other places in this nation that the neighborhood plays right now, and they interrupted DOT's decisions. And the process. And folks, I will tell you, there are reasons why you have the right to respond, you have the right to protest, you have the right to stop projects. When the Department of Transportation comes into our neighborhood and continue to wipe out, you are having the power in your hands. You don't have to sit and say, here, the secretary tells us, well, I'm sorry, the decision is made on that. You don't have to do that, because as citizens of this country, you all have another right. And just accepting what the bureaucracies tell us is not what you're supposed to.
And I would like to know, because I hear you say, no, I won't, no, it's decided, no, I haven't heard cash. And I would like to know on what basis did you all make that decision that is clearly against the will of the
So it's not a real simple answer because it's evolved over time. So when the house was first purchased in, I think it was 2015, it was bought from a willing seller, and it was inspected by the people that do the historic inspection, along with all the other homes they're looking at, and it's determined that it's not one that is eligible candidate for the relocation or rehabilitation. We scheduled it for demolition, because that's what was in the agreement with the federal government. We're going to relocate 64 homes, and there were several that were demolished because of the state of the different construction. In 2017, it was ready to go down, and I was asked at one of these meetings if I could delay it, and I said, okay, no delay. We weren't required to do any kind of mothballing or anything else because it was scheduled for demolition. We put it on the market, we had several people come by, but once they come inside and look at the structure and look underneath the beams, and they see how it runs up its code and how everybody thinks it's a block structure, but it's not. It's stuff on the outside of the frame. And they said, you're gonna have to tear all that stuff off, you're gonna have to replace all the frame, basically, you're gonna tear everything down to the base, and you're gonna have to build it back up. And so we went in there to try to look for ways. I swear, I tried to go in that building to see for myself. I said, guys, this is salvageable, and I am convinced looking in there. I'm not a building engineer, but I'm convinced. And I know that when I tried to walk up the steps and things were falling off the stairs, and the floorboard sagged down when you step on anything. The problem was that it's not salvageable. I understand that nobody wants to tear it down. I don't want to tear the thing down just because of, just tear it down. But we don't have anybody that's come up and said, I want to invest $1.5 million or something to tell us the cost to do this. In the meantime, it continues to get worse. In the meantime, it continues to be a problem. Police complain about it. They're saying they get called out all the time. We were hoping, because that was always designated to be a buffer area. It's never designated to have structure buffer. Along with the greenway, it's designated to be a buffer between the interstate and the home. So that you would never have people living right up on the interstate in that area. And so we were envisioning all along that that would be something like a large park, a large recreational area, a large community garden, a dog park, some combination of all that. And when the structure was gone, well, that's possible. So that's how we were looking at it. But we gave another 60 days because we were hoping somebody would come in with a viable proposal and a financial plan to maybe come in. But nobody even came in to come and look at it. We offered it open to people to look at it, to see what you know what you're getting into and trying to rehab the structure. It's like I said, I'm being as transparent as I can. I don't want to come in here and tell you something that isn't the truth. That's the truth. That's what it is.
So I would like to bring this up. First, I think your definition of viable is not the same as the definition of impact. But that we would like to commission independent structural study because again, nothing has been provided. The way I read the one in 2008 with my pathetic education was that there is still some viable way to do it. In 2019, it was still viable to be relocated because they're still being shopped out there. And I've read some reports from movers on that. We did some of the work on it as an architect did go through recently and take some photos there and did a walkthrough. It's not had the opportunity to prepare a report on that yet. I'll go ahead and pay for a structural engineer or 2 or 3 to come in there and commission some independent reports since nothing.
Brian, we've already done it. I don't want to debate.
May I have a
Sorry,
copy?
I'm sorry. You have other avenues you can go. I'm sure. 60 days ago, we could have had this conversation.
I requested that report of Justin Hall. All we This is about transparency, sir.
I am being transparent. I don't have anything else to say. If you want to just talk to me, you can, but I have nothing else to add.
I mean, Commissioner Myers, this sounds like unreasonable request, talking about community wins, about let's stop, you know what, maybe we can value historic preservation. The interstate's not gonna come that close to it anymore. Talking about community members, at least willing to roll up their sleeves and make something happen and try to find a way to put money where it is to create a community victory. If there'll just be a change of mindset, does this sound unreasonable to you, these requests?
It just really sounds like y'all are juggling your wheels and you do not want to work with the people that are here tonight, is what it sounds like. This is the first time I've been here, but I must say, I hear a lot of passion, I hear a lot of heart out here, and I hear Stonewall. And I'm not happy about that, and I'd like to see that report myself. Before y'all move forward, I want to see that report.
You provided that.
I think I think part of this is just communication. Lena called for months asking what was happening with that building. She was being told, no, nothing's happening. It wasn't until the actual demolition crew was there because we're close enough to see it that we knew what was going on. Rick's been trying to find it very, very active. And nothing was said about a wall. Another thing that happened when we had the FDOT come to our meeting was a very clear sign saying that you're supposed to wear masks. None of them wore masks. They had to be specifically told to wear a mask. Now, I realize that there's issues with our governor and other stuff, but you know, I don't think that, and I appreciate that you're wearing a mask. And we were being told that there would be nothing happening with the demolition. The next day, we find out it's gonna be demolished again. So, I mean, just be honest. And have a, you know, just have some respect.
Let me say this. You're all in a historical area. The city of Tampa, you first hear about a building that's going to be vacant and historic, go to the city of Tampa. No, and ask for some grant money. Ask the city to partner with the county and the state so you can get a grant to preserve the property. When you first hear about it, I mean, nobody likes to do anything. I don't know if you would, because I'm at the county, okay? So I don't know, but that would have been one of the steps to go to the city to apply, even to get the designation from the county as a historical site. Now, the county does that. They will come out and do it early enough, not at the close of it going down. Yeah, I'm not,
We had plans on how we could do this. The Department of Transportation is telling us something different.
was that after the fact was that in 2015, they were telling you after the fact, or was this here recently? Because in 2015,
Talking about these properties. If the Department of Transportation had told us that, okay, you community, you go ahead and move it, we could have done that. You see what I'm saying? You're saying what we could have done? No.
I'm saying in the future, this community, if you know of any that you want designate and to preserve, I would go to the county to get that designation and ask them to work with the state. And that would help preserve.
In a historical district.
In a historical, my church sits right around the corner, and we have great about the right California from the Burger King. Okay, the last day in church, downtown Tampa, African American. What was my sorority house now? The greenhouse was on the corner. We saw that because we thought the interstate was coming. But he wasn't the secretary at the time. I don't remember the secretary name before you, but he convinced us that the interstate was coming to take everything and we had to move. He came to preserve us. You know, so I'm just saying when you hear of things, when you first hear it, and I tell people this all the time, that's when you take action. If you want to hear something, I'm the convention in this area, call 813-272-5720. I work with my community.
Right,
Okay.
I think everybody in this community got involved once they saw the orange vest on the property. Like, it wasn't, that's when the community was engaged, because that's when they knew something was gonna happen with the property, and that's, you know, when the solution was being created. So, yeah, we've done a lot within 60 days, you know, so we have another 60 days and put these proposals on the table. We can say the cultural asset that's important to historical. Those are all very important things to the community, right? So I think that's kind of where we stand.
But no financial takers in those 60 days. You know, when people go in that want to preserve and buy the structure, you know, they opt not to buy for whatever reason.
They have 5 years to do. You have 60 days. Like,
There's not, we need more.
Last year, the house was being negotiated, and then a successful deal.
right, yeah.
So we didn't know,
Apples to
as
apples.
of last year, that it was a danger of coming down.
Not a radar. So we need this for a full-time job. This is us being community people, so we don't have 40 hours a week. They have years to do this. We get 60 days and we're still in more time. And there's still a question of, is it structurally sound? We don't have a report from them, so how can we even get a budget? We don't have a report. We asked to get in there to actually come up with our own engineer to figure out what's wrong so we can build a report. That's how construction works. If we don't have the data, we can't come up with a plan, we can't get funding, and we lose it because they have 6 years, we have 60 years. That's not how it works. And why do you school this? If there's reason to alienate the whole community and push all the suburban people to our neighborhood.
Like, that's what happened. They had the opportunity of a pandemic to not have communication, and now we're all being hurt.
Great.
And, all right. Put on the bottom, okay? My mic, Commissioner, is all this. The DOT cannot convert the AKA house, right? The DOT came in under the guise of TBX when they were going to put all of that stuff under asphalt. And they bought it, willing buyer, understand, willing seller, but they bought it under the umbrella of the TBX project that no longer exists. They did the same thing in 1902 Lamar. So you have this huge footprint that we were threatened with, and they came in and they bought properties from willing sellers. Then the footprint got little. And now the AKA house isn't needed. The 1902 Lamar house isn't needed. They're just sitting there. Now, the Lamar house has become an inconvenience. I get that. But they don't need it for anything, and they don't need to demolish it. This thing about it being structurally unsound, I mean, I know that two members of our community were in negotiations, and as recently as November of 2020, we have a report from the folks that were going to move the building. And they quoted something like $150,000 to $200,000 to move the building. It's a multi-point quote. There's nothing in there that says we can't move the building, Secretary, because it will fall apart on Florida Avenue. They said it's going to cost X number of dollars, and this is how we have to secure it in order to wrap it up and move the son of a gun a quarter mile or so down the road. You know, if it could do that, if it could survive that in late 2020, I think it could survive being secured and just being left the hell alone there, while we have a chance to do what we need to do. Now, that having been said, let me just suggest to you, this will be an outstanding opportunity for you to be a hero and actually represent us instead of representing them. Because as you sit there, if you stand there, that's what I'm hearing. You're taking the position that the DOT has done great things and we ought to be supporting them, and you all ought to be doing more. I'm sorry, there's not anything more I can do. There are a lot of people here who are burning the candle at both ends trying to defend our homes. This would be a great time for you to be an advocate. I don't care if you're on the county commission. I don't care if you're on the city council. If you represent this district, you should be advocating for us. You're hearing our passion. We're looking at you to do your job. And you're on the TPO board. There's some leverage there too. All you got to do is look at that man and say, at a board meeting, I want you to work with the community, not just talk to him, figure out a solution, and save that building. It's his discretion.
Wasn't you,
have to do it.
wasn't you in the January 11th meeting when I said that?
I'm sorry?
Wasn't you in the January 11th meeting when I said that?
When you said what?
What you just said.
Well, in December, you said come to the community and talk to us. In January 11th, you were busy going to a conference someplace else. You needed to be briefed somewhere else, and you had to leave early. So I didn't hear you say that then, but I heard you say it in
In the
December.
December, you're right, it was the December meeting.
And
I
asked
him to work with the community.
Rick, I can honestly
Okay.
say that Commissioner Myers is the only person that called me on behalf of Tampa Heights community. I can say that honestly.
And I want to say, because there's no other commissioner that has come. So for me, thank you, Commissioner Myers, for being here. My other half is very passionate, and I love her for it, because if you sat in our house on January 18th, I can run count, I felt really for them.
As I said at the beginning,
I have one other question, I have one other question.
as I
So
said,
when Ms. Lamar said to be demolished, she said, we could do another part, or we could choose what we want it to look like. So what is your date? Because I want to have the bill on call, on equal about that.
I don't know how to answer that. On one hand, that implies that we want to put a sign there, I want to put a safe place. I'm not sure that's the best thing to do.
Yeah, just showing how passionate.
I
So
know,
we would
but
like to
I
know.
want my contract, I want with the commission contract to have a safe place. If you're gonna come commit a crime, I don't know why we're going to do it. To be honest, if you want to protest, that's fine, but I don't know what the bail bonds will be there for.
well, let me say that.
Okay, guys, we have an online comment that someone would like to make.
Thank you,
We don't
Josh.
wanna- we're here to work together. I'm here to work how we can work together. Not at odds. I'm here to work in my community, to come together. Then I will have a meeting with Mr. Secretary tomorrow.
Are you
Because
aware
I
that, are you aware that city councilman today, the council meetings, said that the property will not be demolished? That was today, and you were here tonight telling us that it will be demolished.
No, I
I'm
just,
speaking to him about this.
I was in meetings all day. So,
I'm speaking.
oh, yeah.
He said, I got a call saying he said that it was gonna be demolished.
All right, I would like to read this because we've had 7 people still that are hanging on online because they care about this. Many have dropped off, but they're still here. So Hope says, not only is the current state of the Lamar structure directly caused by intentional neglect, but wood floors and support joists for stairs and second floors do not mean that a building is not salvageable. I'm tired of hearing excuses for how we got here, but rather what can we do at this point in time to save this structure? I also want commitments that all future planning efforts in Tampa Heights preserve or restore our neighborhood, 0 properties lost.
I can make a commitment.
Well, we don't, I'm not sure what properties lost. There are no other properties within Tampa Heights that we're looking at, that there's a building that we would look to demolish. So there's no other properties like that. And as part of the downtown interchange project, we're requiring 0 additional properties. So I don't think there'll be any additional. I don't know, if I can commit to that. If I find one, I'll let you know before, but I don't know anything.
Okay.
And I was you have to understand, the greenway is ultimately an asset to our community. It's also a liability. Because at any moment, DOT can come in 10 years and say, you know what, we need to go a little bit further into our right of way. Because I was at the time president of the Civic Association, and we were told the same as I think, we need to start thinking about what the future of the interstate is. We need to think about this greenway. How can we expand it up to 4 houses? What can we do to bring it all the way down? And it sounds like the greenway is going to be fantastic near the AA house because of the flyover.
We're going to be expanding it, and we're going to be doing a whole lot of food trails. There's a whole lot of extra building for it. Going there, we're going to that was part of it. We're building a lot of things for city, widening, the other passes, and much of it, widening the city on public water. But I'll tell you, the thing about the EIS process. When we close that, you got that record of decision, if we ever want to second anything, you've got a brand new EIS, which take 5 to 10 years. We've got that record of decision, that's all we do.
And I would also say, representing us, I live 3 houses from the interstate, and I felt the same vibration. I thought it was my anxiety, because I was in my upstairs and ended up moving home. I noticed a lot more than I ever had before. My home turns 100 years. 100 years. I still have the original glass pane casing, and the house was not as well maintained as we maintained it recently. So I get to see termites every time the windows rattle, and every single one of my window ledges had extra termite dust after that rattle. It's one thing for a car to go down to Nebraska and be bumpers music. The other thing is that sustained ground vibration that's rattling my house. And I have plaster walls, original windows. We've invested so much money into this house. And it's, you know, I get it. The road is getting bigger. It's a thing where it's basically the interstate devalues the neighborhood. The neighborhood that becomes divested and disengaged, and then it's that cycle. I would suggest a similar style meeting that was provided in Robles Park. Come into the community. Because there's a lot of folks that don't even know that Tampa Heights has a civic association. They've never been used to being represented by a neighborhood that's that. They may not have the cars and the ability to recommend multiple times a day. Be at the locations that if they live nearby, keep 3 houses down walking.
We recommend those types of things because it is part of the health very specific times.
Let me suggest this, and I know, Mr. Secretary has a subcontractor, or contractor that goes knock on the doors. But if you think about it tomorrow, take pictures of what your house looked like tonight, inside and out. So if it is any damage, you have a contractor that will replace what is wrong with your house. You have the current pictures. You follow what I'm saying? I have to do that every time it's a hurricane. Because I bought something, changed something in the house or whatever. And so I take pictures myself, just in time. So if a hurricane comes, I can say I have this size TV, what have you. So I'm saying when you might get some structural, a price that you don't have now, and because of this jar in the house, and you begin to see it, you can call the secretary and say, hey, come out, have them come, I want to show this. Now I'm going out. That's all I'm saying.
All right, so are you guaranteeing it's gonna be repaired? Are you-
Yeah, they're gonna
You're
repair.
guaranteeing it. You're gonna guarantee that right now, you too.
Well, they have a contract.
They have a contract that does that. That's what he said earlier.
Because the city broke my driveway last year, they did never fix it. I paid to have it repaired. So they don't
know
fix
about the-
anything.
I'm only saying what he said. He has a contractor. And that, you know what he said earlier?
Yeah.
That went around so they can know they're in the neighborhood. So if you have something that's happening from the John and whatever with this construction going on that is affecting your house, you should immediately contact.
Are you guys giving neighbors written notice that this is available? Because I
They
think,
went to the into the neighborhood.
no, but you have to give people written notice. Going to someone's door in the middle of the day doesn't constitute them like knowing someone came or putting a flyer on their door. You really have to give someone notice that it's happening.
They mailed it to the property owner, and I believe if the person wasn't home, they left something at the house.
Did you get one, Shane? So here's the other thing, we get back, Commissioner Mize, you're talking about a natural disaster. This is. This is a man-made. A hurricane's a natural disaster.
I said, that's what I did know.
Okay, I understand your suggestion. I'm just differentiating.
No, but he said
That's
if
what
they
you
were
guys did.
fixed.
Some people in this neighborhood still don't even know about the interstate
Yeah.
project because, again, we haven't been, we don't have everybody's email address. It shouldn't be contingent upon us.
This is something we do on hundreds of jobs every year.
But you have seismic, civil, structural engineers that should understand how work affects things. And if they're drawing a radius and it's reaching Shane's house, which is outside of the radius, then they're clearly not doing the right job.
I'm not. Okay, can you get with him, give him your address?
I mean, I have 2 houses, 2 quarters, and I received no notification about it.
We're not,
So we wanna make
we're not
sure-
receiving our,
We want to make sure that, that you all have the correct information
But
and that the contractor is responsible.
okay, but we need time. You guys can't, like tonight, you guys came in here and ambushed our meeting. You have to give us some time to process things. You can't just walk in and take control of everything. That's
I'm
not,
not taking
you
control.
guys did that tonight.
Okay, all right.
And whether it's because of our privilege of being able to kick off and be here for hours, there's a lot of people in the community that are neighbors that don't have the ability that we try to talk to that don't like somebody knocking on their door in the middle of the day that's unexpected, that they don't want to have that. You know, we have to be very aware of that. And maybe their roads are not as, maybe their cluster is not as clear as my cluster is, but maybe they will.
You know, I'm gonna suggest what I suggested to some of the other associations, is you have 90, one lot, and the next you have a day, so that you can get the participation and share. Now, you might say it's too much, but every meeting I do, you say those that work, you cannot come. So you have to find a way to offer. You don't know, and that's the.
But there's no government. And that's why the rules, they shouldn't, like, what they're doing, they had in-person meetings multiple times today. We would encourage that maybe the people who are responsible for the project do this thing.
You know, one of the things I do in the county when I have town hall, I ask the county to put up signs in the community, spread it throughout, where the major term, where the neighbor could see it, read. and you might have to balance them out and take them down. But that's one way that the neighborhoods begin to come to the various citizens.
Construction site, say, what's going on here? And then listen what's going on, and then maybe there's associated.
So if you guys have to work on periodic. I think what might have happened on some of the notifications, and this thought of it, but the notifications probably went out for the project that's currently under construction. If you go further south where it isn't under construction yet, like south of where Rick was talking about, those will probably come out next year when we get a contractor for that project. So if you're way south of Nebraska, you may not be in that area yet where they're out notifying. They will eventually, if they're further south. That zone of the road.
If I can hammer my gavel, I think we're just going to call this discussion at what it is, because I don't think that we've reached a mutually productive point now. So we're just going to move on. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming in person. I wish we had coordinated a little more on that, but I do appreciate you standing here and listening, no matter how much we might disagree or might not be able to make our mindset and position clear. At least you're here, and that is appreciated. So,
And if y'all can set another date that we can communicate. Okay.
All right, I need to run through who we have a few items because they require notice on our agenda. We have, the board has made an amendment to the bylaws and articles of incorporation. Had we had more time tonight, as I prepared, I would have given a summary of them. I have them up on the computer. The way our bylaws are required for them is that we announce it at one meeting. We take a motion from the floor to consider it, then it's posted for 30 days. Would you mind having a conversation in outside or in the other room?
Guys, we're still doing good.
So the main purpose of our bylaws and vision, and there's numerous small things in there, but there was just a lot of conflict within the bylaws, as well as conflict between the articles of incorporation and bylaws. So we wanted to clean that up as best we could. So one of the core things is our dues are actually set by the articles of incorporation and fixed amounts. So, and there was conflict about how we would raise it. So we're going to clean that up. We're not looking to raise dues extensively. Right now, it's just $12 per year. But if you were to keep up with inflation, I think what we come up with, that would be something like
$32.
32. So we're not going to go that high. But we want to at least be able to raise a little bit more funds to get back to putting money into the community through that way. And then there were just some other inconsistencies with board titles and how the board operates, but that was really one of the primary functions of it. I don't know if the board I'm missing anything big on there, but I would have loved to spend more time on it, but from memory, that's what it is. Again, the board ran through it in detail in December. We all voted on that, and I'd like to at least accept a motion tonight to put that out for consideration. We'll post on our website, send it out to via email by full text, but we need to have a motion here tonight. Okay, moved by Rick, second by Shane, thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right, we will post those amendments. The next announcement, the Bloom Art Walk is this Friday, January 28th. Tony, who I think is back there, is our new Northwest representative. He's an artist, an art curator, everything arts. And Tony's super passionate for this neighborhood. Lives in the Northwest Quadrant and runs his gallery on Franklin Street inside the Ocean Market building, right next to Capitol Hill. His space in there. Lunches Gallery. Every one Friday a month, I think it's the last Friday, there's this balloon art walk. So the craft breweries, so they participate, they do live music, art. We're trying to grow that, get more investment in Franklin Street corridor. Get that going. So engaging with the art and the artists there. And Tony's been leading the charge on it. So it's this Friday, 7 to 11 p.m. Tomorrow. Yep. You are right.
On Franklin Street, there's no specific address, right?
I mean, it's centered down by
No,
Oceanic.
You'll see it. It's down there by
It's on the
Cafe.
south side.
Yeah.
They're just north of the interstate. But we are hoping to grow it up the entire street and do something across the whole street, but just looking to grow that and represent the businesses there, support them. There is a porch party at the garden next Friday, February 4th. We're working on coordinating that. I need to get the word out. What time are we starting?
I'm assuming it's 6 o'clock to 8, but we haven't confirmed that.
We'll confirm the time, maybe 5, maybe 6.
Yeah.
BYO, food and drink. And please come out because these things are like the community garden party. Normally we do it at porches. We're going to keep doing that. But like once a quarter, we want to do a bigger one, a bigger public space. And get folks to come gather together because despite some of the topics we talked about tonight, we want to do positive things. We want to build community. We want to get people excited about stuff. We want to talk to our neighbors and meet them and build that friendships and, you know, maintain and grow our diversity and not just be talking about highways and real estate development all the time.
And it's not awkward to come by yourself.
Yeah, come by yourself. It's fun.
Bring the kids.
Yep. We referenced this 5 or 6. We did not. No.
We'll send it.
We'll send it.
an email, right?
Yeah. We'll make sure we post it several times in the next week. The 1% transportation surtax, I touched on that earlier, and we mentioned town hall meetings. So February 9th, February 28th, and March 1st, I'll make sure to publish, and March 3rd, I'll make sure to publicize this online also. But those are the county's listening sessions to have citizens come and say, we want better public transportation. This is pretty crucial to especially getting better things done in this neighborhood. So we want that. The second part, TOD community charrette in this building on Saturday, February 12th at 10 a.m. Again, envisioning how we set new development standards and development expectations for Florida Avenue and then the rest of the neighborhood. And then there are a number of planning and zoning notices out there that we are working on and that the land use committee and the board are reviewing. We touched on the Lamar House, the West River Publix. We're still working for better pedestrian improvements there. It's just across the bridge from us. Oh,
The Sheldon's rest one was one I was.
yeah, yes, I will touch on that in 1 second, but that's the hot button. The other highlighted one, 720 West Columbus, that's just across the street from Camp Isom Park, but they're looking to put townhomes there too, and then what is a mixed use area. So we are working with our neighbors at Ridge Park to push for mixed use there. That hearing is tonight at City Council, but because of the comp plan amendment, they actually still can't build town complex. But even if they approve it tonight, we're still on the step. We can ask for better along with Ridge Park. And the Showman's Rest Cemetery. So that is a whole can of snakes. I don't even know what's the term, but it's late at night, I'm making stuff up. It's a mess. But we have been talking to the manager of Showman's Rest finally about the situation. There are actually layers and layers of political intrigue for this situation, and it's just a public engagement disaster. But I'm doing what I can to help kind of ameliorate that situation and create a win-win. The bottom line, the Showman's Rest is the private cemetery that's adjacent to Woodlawn. It's a small parcel of land, and they wanted to increase their endowment by selling off the land that's not buried. Now, 99% sure it's not. Some further study needs to be done, but they believe nobody's buried there. They got talked into selling it off for real estate development to raise those funds. They want the funds to endow to care for the grave sites that they have, which is a very noble purpose. It's the same as caring for any other cemetery. So I'm trying to help them reset the clock and say, all right, if what you care about really is just the future of your cemetery where your loved ones are buried, much as the people who are, concerned about their loved ones in Woodlawn, it's actually a similar approach. It just, the whole thing got killed by poor public engagement, which is a recurring theme of the night. And so I think there's a way to reset the clock and generate a win-win. It's going to take creativity from the city and a clarification on goals, better public communication, but that is still on the city council agenda for February 24th. It may go on still, even despite them may go down in flames. But I made a personal commitment to the management of Showman's Rest that after it goes down in flames, or if they withdraw, that I will try to hit a reset of their relationship with the community and offer suggestions on ways to achieve their goal, which is to raise some money to care for the portion of the cemetery.
What did you mean by this? Did you mean for the community?
Oh, no, for their comp plan amendment. So what is being voted on already passed the planning commission. It's a comp plan amendment to go from public space to residential use.
All 15, I think.
R10, and it will allow 15 townhomes. Yep. Yes. So there's a whole lot of drama behind the scenes, and there may not be in good faith able to share it at this meeting that I learned recently, but there's political implications to it. And so, yeah, it's a messy situation. But if that gets voted down by the city council and that comp plan amendment fails, again, I would like to help them find a way to solve the situation in good faith, because I think there was some amount of the management of that cemetery being taken. So. What I know is hearsay, so that's why I don't want to spread this. So anyway, that is still on the agenda. This board has voted to oppose it. So we've heard the big outcry from our neighborhood, the big outcry from folks in Riverside Heights across the street from the site. And we're still firmly opposed to this comp plan amendment because it's not right for the site. So.
It's not right. It's got
So that's still the official position of the board. But I just want to let everybody know. Again, I try to approach everything and say, what's the real move realistically going on? How do we generate a win for the community instead of having all these outcomes?
Well, thank you. You've already shared more information.
Yeah, I just found this out a week ago. So it's all fresh information. The rest of those are either closed items or do not have a hearing date yet. The next highlighted one was the one we heard about tonight, Boulevard. Keep going down, Josh. 112 East Emily Street, side setback reduction. I think that's near your house. They got built out of code.
Yeah, I got
unpermitted.
Yeah, they did
Trying to
someone.
retroactively.
Yeah, they're trying to retroactively fix it.
I think it's just a 1 foot side setback reduction.
Yeah, I was gonna talk to the neighbors that live next to them and see, we did get the public notice, they certified mailed it to us, so they're asking for half a foot, right? Not much.
I thought 1 foot.
Yeah, 1 foot, it's not much.
So this is a design exception, there's no public hearing on it.
That's an existing home that was trying to.
So yeah, so they took the original house and they did an extension on it unpermitted. So the extension did not hold up very well. So now they're bringing everything up to permit. So that's like their whole thing they're doing. So it's good that they're doing something so the house is not vacant as it sits right now, so.
But if you, again, want to know about this, you can go on to city site, we have instructions on our website how to look it up. But you have to write to city staff, there is no city council. The next one is the other rezoning for the applicants that did not show up tonight, that we talked about. Then 456 West Columbus, this public notice just came out, it's Water Brewing. They want to take 5 of their parking spaces, 4 or 5 parking spaces in the back of the building and turn it into a outdoor patio. Yes, so outdoor dining out there. Again, land use committee hasn't considered it yet, so no official position here, but that's the gist of it. Then 2510 North Central Avenue, this is an ARC, Agricultural Review Commission case. So the Central Court Apartments last year put up an unpermitted chain link fence, which is allowed in the historic district. They replaced, I think, one they had, but the rule says if you take it down and replace with something that is appropriate, they put in place, retroactively filed, to get allowed, got denied. Now they're appealing that denial. See my hopes for that. We just received that notice this week also, so we'll take action on that. That city council hearing is February 17th. So because they lost, they have to get canceled now. So we'll have to take some action. Then the last new one, 2821 North Morgan Street. That's in our northeast quadrant. And so it's for a formal decision. This is another staff level thing. But they have unpermitted multifamily units. And they're asking to be grandfathered in. And from the quick information I found online, it actually has been used as a multifamily since I proposed this. So seems like they're just trying to grandfather in for some use that it historically has been. And we probably need to do a little bit more research on that. That takes us through everything else. Are there any other announcements, questions? Was that sleepover? Thank you, everybody who tuned in online. Okay. Yeah.